make sure that it's coming up on Twitch. There we go. All right, well, I think we're live. I got the recording going. I got the streaming going. Here we are. So,
Love it.
Hello, everyone. If you all are just tuning in, we are going to be reviewing some of the replays from the group stage that just happened yesterday. I myself am Ketura. I run the Players Council, and with me today we got, who do we got here? We got dstaley and we got Balrog69, both of whom participated.
Hello.
So yeah, they're going to help me commentate on some of these matches, and we're just going to take a look and see some of the stuff that happened and make some comments about the meta and go from there. So to those who are unfamiliar with the format, it was a split format where the first 4 games that were played in the series were played in the PC Fellowship format, and then after a brief break, we came back and played 4 more rounds in PC Movie. So we'll see a variety of decks that were brought by the best players in the world across 2 different formats. So I guess we can just hop right in. So let's go ahead and start with this one that was recommended by you, dstaley. I think yours is, this is probably cheating a bit, but yeah, so yours is the winner. So let's take a look at it from that perspective. Are y'all able to see the screen all right? Is it showing up?
Yeah, we can see it on our end. It's all good.
Okay, so I'm going to slow it down just a little bit because unfortunately the replay system does not go in real time. It goes, you know, just one action right after the other. So let's see. So you're here on the bottom and your opponent is Tonio up at the top. So you've got an Elven opener with classic Greenleaf and Arwen starter. Threw me off for a minute because that's not the usual Greenleaf.
Just a different picture. I was
Yeah,
very confused.
admittedly, I was going with the alt image Greenleaf to see if it would just throw anybody and they wouldn't notice.
The sort of mind games that get brought up at high level play, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why I'm not one of them.
So, looks like we had Tonio go first, and so he's got a Dwarven deck on his side up against your Nazguls. He took out the Witch King, played at Bree Streets, went in with no roaming penalty. And then on your side, you've got, looks like Tonio must have done this specifically to avoid the Prancing Pony starter there, looks like.
Yeah, exactly.
But you got Aragorn in anyway. Guess you got lucky on the opening draw.
Yeah, I did. I mean, there's 4 of them in there, but still got pretty lucky on the draw.
And looks like your opponent is playing Moria Archery. Or perhaps just Splashed Archery as part of a more general Moria strat.
It's clever for him to stop at site 2 because the Dwarven Choke doesn't quite work with the Nazgul sites 2 and 3.
That's true, yeah. dstaley has no such compunctions, however, especially when it's just up against goblins.
Yeah, I figured he wouldn't be fully set up at site 3 yet, but I did have to give up Fort of Burnian to do that, so win some, you lose some.
Yeah. Okay, so getting set up with Till Durin Wakes Again. And then Song of Durin's probably not going to help him much this round, but may as well get it out of his hand. Now, there's a painful Nazgul to play up against dwarves, of course. Kentea being able to knock out any of those possessions, the hand weapons that dwarves really love to have.
Incredibly annoying, especially without an archer.
Yep, and there it goes. So that's interesting that he passed it around rather than just having, well, I guess Gloin was pretty dead by that point.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it actually worked out well for me, like waiting to get the Black Breath on Gimli rather than Gloin, but
Gimli's definitely the one that needs more of his vitality. So
yeah.
definitely got a stacked up Aragorn coming up here.
Yeah, nice to get the armor early for that eventual Balrog.
The eventual Balrog, any possible cave trolls that might come out.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, those cave trolls. From a strategy standpoint, though, when you're playing Moria, does it really matter if you give everybody a lot of Twilight? Because they can generate it anyway. So I suppose it doesn't matter having a big fellowship and dumping in the beginning.
Yeah. Although, of course, counterpoint, we've got Nquea here, able to pick off anyone you want. So you do have to be careful with that
Yeah.
much.
Thought it was really interesting choice of him to go for Arwen rather than Legolas, though.
Yeah, that seems. I'm not sure about that. Arwen's not going to have any help except against any splash Nqueas, but Legolas has already picked off several archers by himself.
Yeah.
Is that Aragorn an alternate image too?
Yeah, it's Ranger of the North, but the alternate image. I figure I gotta do something with all these tournament promos.
Very confusing. I'm so glad I didn't see you.
You know, some people have actually brought up the confusion aspect, and some people want a mode where they can tick a checkbox and make it so that none of the images show except for the regular base images. But that's for everything.
Yeah.
Like no Tengwar, no full arts, no nothing. A no fun mode, as I've been calling it.
Yeah.
No. I think it's perfectly fair. I think it's just a hesitation moment
Mhm.
of confusion.
The Tengwar is admittedly a bit confusing for like
No, but they
newer
fixed that.
players.
Yeah, and we did. I did throw a hack in for that. It doesn't show up here in the replay, but on the live games, it will show the actual game text on the side now,
Yeah.
so that you can figure that out. So I guess I missed it. He got rid of the Black Breath with Make Light of Burdens, and I'm glad to see people actually using this on lower level play. People with dwarves seem to just forget that it's a card that exists, but it's very
Yeah.
much available for dwarves. And that's one of their biggest weaknesses, is not being able to take care of conditions. But that at least makes it so Blade Tip and Black Breath are just a few cards away from getting rid of. So you've got the new V1 Fell Voices Call here. I saw that you ditched your Pale Blade earlier, and so that's the sort of thing that makes those sorts of decisions easier.
Yeah, exactly. Fell Voices Call is one of the more interesting V cards for Nazgul, I think. It just opens up a lot of flexibility. Sort of the like shadow side version of the Wizard's Never Late.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of those very specific Nazgul weapons that are really difficult to pull out, especially the one that like only plays on Lamenya, and some hyper specific weapons that you'd never include if you actually had to get them to line up.
Yeah, so I think this is where I screwed myself, is pushing ahead there. Like, obviously I survived, but as we'll see later, like Brown Lands is coming.
So let's see. He's got himself a relics out. He's got 2 armories, 1 swarms. He got the mostly free or orc, or the discounted one if you played Archer Troop. So 2 copies of Archer Troop, which means that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 archery coming out. Yeah.
Those hobbits are really good at soaking them up, though.
Yep. Good old speed bumps.
Exactly.
Moria Swarm is such a good card.
I'm sorry, which one?
Goblin Swarm.
Oh, Goblin
Oh,
Swarm,
yeah,
sorry.
Yep. Iconic.
I got utterly thrashed by someone who stacked about 10 minions on one.
At that point, they're walking around with 2 hands. There's
Yeah.
Especially if you can generate your own Twilight, there's no way out.
Yeah. There's that Pale Blade coming out. Strength 17. Witch King.
And hopefully burn a few of his conditions, which I think I do.
Yeah, because he's definitely got a few of those. This one right here, especially, that he's
Yeah.
gonna frantically use it now that it's on the table that it might get wiped.
It was also interesting, like, I feel like the meta shifted a little bit. I was stacking Too Great and Terrible, and I didn't come across a single, like, meaningful Gandalf deck. I feel like in some of the qualifier rounds and such, like, Gandalf was so heavy, and the anti-Gandalf with Too Great and Terrible was so heavy. It seems like a significant amount of players kind of shifted away from that.
Yeah. So that's interesting. You nuked both copies of Tel'Duran Wakes Again to make sure that, I guess, Gimli's not going to get healed as soon as you move away.
Yeah, exactly. He'd already gotten rid of most of my conditions at that point with
True.
Yeah, so I figured that was the move.
Now the timers do not show up properly here in the.
Yeah, the timers is what's going to be interesting. Like, this is the first thing where, like, if I hadn't double moved, it might have been a different game because I'm about to lose Elrond when I move to Anduin Confluence. I was like all ready to go. Secret Sentinels, Vilya, take out his key conditions, give myself a chance at surviving, and buy Elrond.
Now, what's the errata on Sting? I don't think I've ever fully grasped that one.
So it used to be that with Sting, you would reveal your opponent's entire hand and then remove one for each orc removed. I think it was limit 4. So we cut the limit down to 2, and then we also made it so that it only reveals 4 cards. So that way it's an unreliable reveal. You don't get to see everything unless, of course, they only have 4 cards in hand.
Yeah, because you used to have that benefit of even if they weren't running orcs, you could just look at their whole hand.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that you're able to do that on Frodo, of all people, whose vitality is the least valuable,
right.
Yeah, there was it was way too powerful. We left Glamdring alone, so that still reveals the whole hand, but Gandalf's vitality is a completely different conversation. So
yeah.
I think that's definitely been a good change, making it so that it's not you're not walking around with knowledge of your opponent's hand constantly in every match.
For sure.
Hi, Sam.
You did what you were built to do.
Exactly.
Die.
We just finished watching The Return of the King the other day, and I'm just still like really, really sad for Sam.
It's an emotional film. Me and my wife watched it on the when they did a 20th anniversary re-release in theaters a few months ago. So we got to go in and watch the extended edition. That was great. I was looking around. Why Return of the King randomly? Why didn't you have the whole trilogy separated by a month or so? But
yeah.
Oh well.
And in this case, I know that Brownlands is coming, so I'm just trying to burn cards and see if I can get some help. Hence playing the Nazgul Sword rather than the Pale Blade.
Yeah.
And trying to win non-existent archers.
I have seen this Relentless Charge used to take out a few fellowships when you've got your built up elves and men. But obviously it doesn't help.
Yeah.
You drew your Elrond again, so even though he got discarded, that's available.
But at this point, I'm just praying Twilight-wise. I don't think I even play it. Or I did play him, okay. I was hoping that Secret Sentinels might help me. And this is the tragic bit where the timer's off. Like,
oh,
I got a very cheap win here. He was playing slow early on. You'll just see his minions build and build and build and build, but he runs out of time in the shadow phase.
And actually, this the way that this works with the Moria Twilight engine, seeing these trigger each time, I'm sure that actually wasn't helping his timer as far as that goes. Well, I think I think that if it counts against any timer, it would count against his. I'm not 100% sure how that would work, but I mean, it's
Yeah, I think he started this shadow phase with about 1:30 left on the clock, and I'm just sitting here praying that like the only way I'm going to survive is he's already got enough archery shots, I think, take me down. That's like what
it's 1, 2, 3,
4 with
4, 5, 6, 7, and then
and then brown lands.
oh man, yeah, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Yeah, I think I'm already dead, but he wasn't aware of the clock.
Oh, that's tragic. I tried to go in and poke at people when they were beneath 2 minutes, but I didn't grab every match. Oh,
Yeah.
that's unfortunate.
I'm so dead.
And the funny thing
But
too
yeah.
is like this isn't even a situation where he had to click on a lot after this point. He just needed to get it down on the table faster and then pass out of his
Yeah.
shadow phase, and then you would be the one running down time, figuring out who to put the arrows into. Oh,
Yeah, and he didn't even need to play the non-archers. Like the minions were already enough to swarm me, and the archery was going to take out. I probably was dead archery phase, but yeah,
yeah.
that was
If that
definitely
was 11, then that would have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then you've got
take
only
one burden.
one
Yeah,
more
one
arrow
hit.
on Frodo with a
Frodo.
Silver's Bane, and that's so that would have been a complete wipe.
Yep.
Whew. Well, that's definitely the downside of the rush timers, but it's one thing I think that people just aren't used to it yet. But we really can't just let the time run forever, so it's unfortunate that happened. All right, well, let's take a look at some of these other ones. So, hobbits. I hear that there was somebody that was running hobbits against the mass Nazgul that they anticipated. Ringbearer's the one. So we'll see how that does. Ooh, both of these decks are pretty heavy.
Oh, interesting.
Is this from Ringbearer's perspective?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ringbearer up against Jerry Gelly.
So Ringbear is running a fairly. What's this from Ringbear's perspective? So
Yes.
Jerry is running a fairly standard start with a little bit of presumably Hobbit ally support.
It's definitely a classic support or a classic setup with Hobbit of some intelligence. I'm kind of surprised that he didn't consider using the V1 Pippin. One of the reasons that we designed him the way we did was because all of the Pippins are pretty useless in Fellowship Block.
Yeah.
And so we were trying to have one that was not just a speed bump, as we see here. Oh well, Hobbit stealth, but still.
Yeah.
He's
Throw Mary on to Frodo.
an early blade tip. And
Yeah.
do hobbits have any way of dealing with conditions? I guess you might have a splashed Elrond and Vilya, but
Bilbo and Bending Your Tails, I suppose, does it, but
oh, that's true.
there's also ample burden removal for hobbits, though.
It's just an interesting
that's true.
play because apart from the first few sites, Nazgul really do need a lot of Twilight to wreak some damage, and the hobbits kind of choke you. So
Yeah, that's for sure. And
that's not drawing any Nazgul at Fort Brunion, apparently.
Ow, yeah, that's the site to have to try and catch the Fellowship before they're all set up. And if you've got absolutely nothing, yeah, he hasn't played much on the Fellowship side either.
Yeah,
so I'm wondering.
Must be a strange draw. The burdens are building up on that Frodo.
Yeah, he's got the Defender +1 Sam, and now this is one thing that I've ran into myself is just constant stealthing. I've had somebody run like just 4 copies of both intuition and stealth, and making sure that no skirmishes happen before Site 5, completely wasting all of your cards.
Yeah, I've been trying to work out a version of a Aragorn Signet Hobbits deck that stacks it on that V card where you can discard them later to get the. What's the name of that card?
Oh, let me think. That is. I should know this. I would have gone with you to the end.
Yeah, exactly. To the end. I'm trying to play with a version of that with like Hobbit Stealth, where you like throw them early and they end up onto the end, and then you can use that later for some modest strength bumps.
Yeah.
I haven't quite landed it yet, though.
Well, and the thing of using hobbits if you're betting on a Nazgul meta is the fact that you're kind of confident you won't need to deal with the Balrog.
Well, you're also going to have all the tools that you need. All you need to do is hold on to a couple of stealths, and you've got, Philibert Bulger to cancel fierce skirmishes.
True.
Yeah, exactly. If they show Moria, you know what to hold on to try and survive Site 5.
Yeah. Now, I haven't yet seen him play Not Feared in Sunlight, which I would think would be a complete shoe-in against the Nazgul meta, but maybe he thinks he's got enough to not bother. Or maybe he just hasn't.
Yeah, I
He
mean,
didn't have a big deck.
mounting burdens on Frodo aside, they're holding up pretty well against the Nazgul.
Yeah. And here we've got the Moria-specific Flame of Adun coming out with a big ol' Moria swarm.
The Isengard Warrior is an interesting splash.
By himself, it doesn't do much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
he
I
must
think
he must have some other, at least one other
He
like
does.
hand minion in there.
He does. I think it's the one that's in the regroup phase you can exhaust a companion.
Oh yeah, you put those two together. Looks like Lego's gone. That Boromir with some armor can really tank just about anything.
Yeah, can't be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's. It honestly feels kind of bad to have a big minion like the Balrog, and then you just plink, get a single wound on some weenie.
That was a really good Boromir.
Yeah. Feels like he's gonna run into an interesting conundrum with like a promise only works if you have Frodo and Sam, and unless he finds some way to start removing burdens fast, he's gonna have to kill Frodo.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. He just played Phil Voice's Call with no Nazgul on the table. This guy's deck must not be coming together properly.
Yeah.
I hadn't even put it together yet, but both of them had the same size of deck, but one of them is running Moria and the other one's running Nazgul. I wonder what justification there was for having such an enormous Nazgul deck.
Yeah, because Nazgul don't cycle that well. Even if you just throw away like two Great and Terribles and can throw Blade Tips out for free, it's a lot harder to cycle on Nazgul than it is with Moria.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a rough site to hit.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and there's enough burdens for Enquay to be mean.
Oh, yeah. And Quay gets to go and just go nuts. So we got a Nazgul Sword and a Black Steed on him. Strength 15. Yeah, but he's got intuitions and stealths coming out of his butt. Sorry, what was that?
The same? I didn't know that Black Steed was in the Fellowship set.
You're thinking of the other one that's a Vitality
okay,
plus
okay,
one
okay.
boost that's in your like Murder Witch King deck and expanded?
No, that's the one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that isn't Fellowship.
This one is severely hampered by the whole Fellowship concept of not taking horses underground. I mean, when you when you have half of the site path right there in the middle being underground, that's hard to justify. Although I guess with Fell Voices, you can just ditch it and pull it when it's convenient.
I think it's all based on the fact that they couldn't take
Build a Pony.
Build a Pony.
Yeah, exactly.
Moria.
Yeah, it's purely a thematic thing, I think. So Asphaleth gets hit with that. Black Steed gets hit with that. No horses in Moria.
Yeah.
It does feel nice though to have kind of a coherent arc to the sites in the Fellowship format.
True, and that is one of the big power, one of the big strengths I think of the Fellowship block, especially having that that Bridge of Keza Doom that never changes. Like there's certain narrative
Yeah.
things that always happen. Everybody splashes a Balrog because why wouldn't you? It's one card,
Yeah.
and you're going to be able to play it for practically free. Oh, we have a ton of chat. I guess a lot more people have been connecting than normal. Let's
nice.
see. Nazguls are dwarf deck killers. Yeah, I mean normally, that's definitely the case most of the time. Maybe wants to kill archers with the Moria event. Yeah, so I think that is referring back to when he had an interesting choice on which when he killed Arwen instead of Legolas. I think I know what he's talking about. There's that one skirmish event that gives you +4 strength if you're up against an archer. So I think maybe he had that.
Oh yeah.
Hoping to use that in his back pocket. Really interesting seeing how the meta changes between events. Yeah, I mean we just had Fellowship and
he must be planning to double move here then if he because he can't do another Fellowship phase or he's corrupted.
Oh yeah, because of the blade tip.
Yeah.
There goes Fear, discarding the Bounder. Poor Pippin. He even had a sword. He was slightly less useless than
Filbert's
normal.
gonna save it though.
Look at that. Look at that loaded up.
Oh my god.
Wow. That's really honestly impressive. Surviving that.
I don't think you could be more by the skin of your teeth. He's got 1 resistance left. He's got I guess he's got 2 vitality left. And then just to make sure, 2 copies of Black Breath.
More thematically appropriate though than hobbits beating Nazgul.
Yeah. Makes sense.
That was an epic game. Well done, whoever flagged that one.
Awesome. Let's see. So we already did that one with you. Tunadan had a recommendation here. I don't remember what was going on here. Although actually, before we do that, let me finish going through chat here, so we can get all this situated. So someone says if you could stop by and comment. Oh, Ringbear is actually here.
Hi, Ringbearer.
Though my deck had a glaring error, I considered it, but time constraints, and I'm not actually sure what that was in response to. I'm sorry. I'm so used to the chat being dead that I was not keeping an eye on this like I should have. Someone says if you could stop by and comment.
What was his error?
Sorry?
What was his error?
I don't know. He said, though my deck had a glaring error, and then I considered it, but time constraints, and that was in response to something we said. But someone here is asking for us to look at Taliel's games. We might give that a shot as a recommendation. Sorry, what was that, dstaley?
It might have been in response to his bit about not feared in sunlight when we were questioning that.
Oh, yes, yeah. Love playing Nazgul, but when the Twilight and/or draws aren't there, it's tough. Yeah, Nazgul are they are a very clog heavy shadow if you don't have it set up just right. And it seems like there's so many tools that could be used, but just aren't a good idea to do so. If you try to pack them all in. Ringbear says that he played 2 warriors and 2 shamans.
Yeah, they're also very like hit early and slow down, but if you get bad draws in the first couple sites, it really doesn't do so much damage later on.
Yeah. Big at 19 says would be hilarious if Rohan Mance had to be discarded underground. Yeah, that would get ridiculous. Okay, so just to talk a little bit about the giveaway stuff that we're going to be doing. So we have a bunch of prizes that have been sponsored by a couple of the different storefronts from Card Game Geek and Category 1 Games. So let me just go to the page for that. So we are going to be giving away some of these today, and we're going to be giving away most of them next week when we do the championship tournament. We're going to be streaming those live as they happen, and so most of these are going to go out then. However, we're going to be handing out 2 of the DGMA t-shirts today, and we're going to hand out 2 of the Minds of Moria starter decks today. So if you want to participate in this, I'm going to go ahead and drop a link in the chat here to a form that you can fill out. So if you fill out that form there, that will enter you into, you'll be able to participate here. All the names that are currently listed here are people that participated in the walk-on qualifiers and the group stage, minus the top 8. They've got their own batch of prizes that they'll be getting. So all these people will be eligible to earn one of these prizes when we spin the wheel later. So if you watching this want to get in on that, go ahead and fill out that form. You'll also be eligible for one of those prizes. And I'll leave that to stew for a little bit if people want to connect to that, and then after a couple of games, we'll start spinning. Anyway, let's take a look at this next game. So this was recommended by Tuna Dan. I failed to put down why it was recommended by Tuna Dan, so I mean, I guess we'll see.
See what happens.
So this is going to be between Balrog69 and R. Branko. Maybe I put down the wrong person. Maybe this is one of the ones Balrog recommended.
Might have been. Very thematic matchup here between the Brazilian British person and the Rafael the Brazilian. We're watching this from... Oh yeah, we're watching this from Branko's perspective.
Oh, this is Branko's perspective. Okay, so... Let's see. So Branko opened with Greenleaf into Pippin and Mary as opposed to...
Those are Arwen, interesting.
Yeah. And then we have Balrog up top with the more standard opening of Greenleaf and Arwen.
Oh
my god, is this me?
It is, yeah.
This
is your game.
So that was good old savagery.
Another savagery. Enough to kill your Arwen.
It's a very bloody... was it just Arwen that died? Yeah, just Arwen.
Oh.
This game, I got hit really hard in the beginning, and it absolutely deflated my confidence in the end. Even though I think he used up all his events in the beginning, and I should have trusted that.
Yeah, because he threw 2 savagery.
I mean, he's
right away.
He just wrapped like it's painful.
Yeah, I
that damage
that problem.
One is the damage +1 plus
Saruman.
No, not Saruman. The one that makes it so you can't gain strength bonuses from your weapon.
Oh, Uruk raiding troop.
Combined is really hard.
Yeah. So we haven't seen them yet, but yeah, the no weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely rough.
Good shot on you getting Black Breath on Aragorn early, though. That's something.
Yeah,
interesting. The hobbits use the sight to survive.
Yeah, that is interesting actually, because they've got more vitality than anybody else. So being able to keep them alive for one more round. Although up against Nazgul are also equipped to use the sight. So
yeah.
So here we've got the errated Saruman coming out with Uruk Warrior. Spot 6 companions to make this minion fierce. Well, gotcha there.
What was the errated on Saruman?
What is this guy doing?
Yes, exert to make the Uruks fierce, I think, is the big difference.
Okay.
So his, like, rather than making all the Uruks fierce and then being able to prevent 3 wounds, you've got to strategically deploy Saruman's vitality.
Yep. Just for the stream context, I have started playing only 6 months ago, so the previous iterations of cards aren't that clear in my mind.
Yeah, that's kind of true for everybody. Not everybody plays constantly, and so people will come back and get new stuff mixed up with old stuff, and it's a constant problem that I'm running into.
No, it's good. It keeps you on your toes.
Yeah. This particular Saruman was definitely oppressive when he was able to drop down and make, an infinite number of Uruk-hai fierce. It was way too much. He got a very well-deserved ban.
Yeah, agreed. I think the way that you made the vitality a resource for both things was an effective errata for him.
And he's still the best Saruman to use in Fellowship Block. so it's not like it made things too bad. Although it did take a couple iterations to get to the point where we also let you discard him to prevent wounds as well, and that made it so that he's no longer completely tapped out and drained of vitality and useless for a double move. So is that the fourth copy of Savagery that's already been played?
It's either the third or fourth, but
He
yeah.
hit me really hard in the
1,
beginning.
2, 3, yeah. That's...
And the errata on that was what? Sorry to be the layman on the stream.
Not at all. So Savagery to match your numbers, to match the numbers, used to be a rather unique event in that when you played it, it gave you +4 strength if you could spot 5 companions until the regroup phase automatically. So what this meant was you played one event and it would make you win this skirmish and it would make you win the next skirmish.
Right.
Which was just way over the top. So now it's been tweaked a couple times, and so now instead it gives you +4 strength on the first skirmish, but only +2 that persists to the fierce skirmish. And you've also got the 2 cost because before it used to be free.
Right.
Now there's a lot more give and take.
Also a bit of a shame that you'd already played most of your Enquays before he finally went to 6 companions.
Yeah. You always hate it when people blame the draw, but sometimes you have to blame the draw.
And it's also rough too because on the games where you don't do that, where you're like, okay, I'm gonna hold on to this in my back pocket, it just sits there in your hand and never does anything. So damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's if we get to the game that I played against Jerry Geddy, that's going to shoot me in the foot really hard. The fact that I didn't hold on to a card I should have.
Yeah.
Got the epic matchup between Frodo and Ate here.
Yeah, it's just going back and forth. We've got a Teo with 15 Twilight in the pool, so he's able to just roid himself out every time.
Kind of smart choice going back to the well. It's like, I've already got Blade Tip and Black Breast, do your worst.
Yeah. It's kind of like when you have Frodo with the mithril coat and you have him going up against all sorts of trolls and Balrogs and whatever else and just taking the one lump and shrugging.
Yeah, it is fun when Frodo with Mithril is able to go up against like a Balrog with damage +2 or whatever and be like, oh, really? Cool.
So, speaking of.
So I believe that was he had the blade on him because of Our Voices Call, right? Or no, did I have that in hand?
Yeah, you got the Nazgul sword from Fell Voices Call.
Yeah, I think
there.
that's such a really good card.
Makes things so much more flexible.
Yeah. Yeah, and it opens up some fun. It's one of the V cards that like works really well in other formats too. It opens up some fun stuff for Nazgul and movie and expanded.
Yeah, pulling out those artifact rings and pulling out the Fell Beast.
Yep.
Yeah.
It looks like you're kind of going down here against these Urukai.
It's not looking good for me. But I do hang on. Eventually, I won't spoil it. Let's watch.
Saruman's power. I feel like Saruman's power plus Grima has become like the new favorite splash in movie block.
Yeah, I was seeing a lot of those during the movie championships last month. That was a surprisingly high use combo.
It sort of works when like, especially in the Mork decks, you're always running Fens. So like, if you get Saruman's power in your hand at the right point, you can probably recur Grima when you need to with Fens. Hi, Legolas.
Yeah, there's that. Oops.
Those Hobbit stealth cards are honestly underrated, I feel. Should use them more.
Yeah, like I almost wonder if this card in particular is why they came out with the wonky ruling about how 1 to 5 means only Fellowship 1 to 5 and not any other site path. Just because stealth is just too good.
I can't imagine the mayhem if that would have been able to apply all the way through into expanded if you could just freely cancel Hobbit skirmishes.
Yeah. And it's actually something that I want to be addressing at some point. I want to clean up all of the any card that references something that only works on the Fellowship path. I want to create a Fellowship symbol just like we have for Towers and King. Clean all that stuff up and make them more usable in more contexts. But Hobbit Stealth is one that I don't know. I'm not sure that we'd want to import that anywhere else. And to be honest, I'm not even sure I want it to stay in Fellowship. It's kind of an easy inclusion.
The Allies home is an interesting thing, though, in regards to that. I'm sure that could be switched over, right?
So that's actually something that's going to be a lot more relevant here once we get around to releasing V2. So one of the things that we're going to be doing with that is that we are going to be adapting what we're calling a mechanical multipath concept for movie. So we're going to change PC movie so that instead of being just king sites, it's going to be a multipath format. So you're going to be able to choose that whether you come with a Fellowship site block path or a Tower site block path or a king site block path. And so when you do that, you're going to be able to say, all right, I want to have my Galadriels and Elrons and other elfin allies be able to do their stuff. So I'm going to pack in my my Fellowship sites, and so we'll be able to see what happens when you crash them all together. We've had a couple of events that were multipath, and I was very pleased with the variety that it injected into movie, changing nothing else but what sites you're allowed to take. So I'm excited to see how that works out.
Yeah, it should be interesting because one of the, as great as the movie format is, one of the stalest things about it is the site path. It's just the site path is very predictable.
Yeah.
And like, okay, site 2 deals with initiative, and site 6 you heal some people or wound everybody, and site 8 you remove a couple threats to do a couple things. And it's just the site. It feels like the site path, other than like Steward's Tomb at site 5, just occasionally screwing you, feels like it's one of the least where sites are least impactful. Where in like Towers, Fellowship, and then post movie, site path has a pretty big impact.
Yeah, the king site path is definitely the most boring.
Yeah,
I hate how it's like, oh yeah, just like you were saying, here's the threat site and here's the everybody heals site, depending on which culture you're doing. Yeah, it's boring.
Yeah.
At some point we'll address that. We'll try and fix king at some point, but that's a ways down the line. Anyway, we've not really been watching Balrog get or not talking much about Balrog getting strung along here, but Boromir and Frodo is still fighting. Everyone else has fallen by the wayside, one at a time.
Yeah. So at this point, I'm feeling quite dejected, but I realized that actually Boromir and Frodo are a pretty good pair if you're choking the Twilight. Boromir can be there in a pinch to make Frodo stronger to survive. So I'm debating whether I should try and go for the site 9. Well, not yet. Okay, next time, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you've got armor on Boromir, and you've got Mithril coat on Frodo. So any of the additional damage bonuses, yeah, that's a very interesting setup to have settled into. To answer your question, Kyle, yes, the overlay for I would have gone to the end, that is supposed to be there. I just haven't switched it over to anything else. I probably should have a mode where I can make that not show up as much when I'm not using it. But yeah, that is intentional.
I'm actually really curious to see this from Branko's perspective.
Oh, so you kept bouncing Saruman's ambition with Vilya.
I did. So at this point, I can survive this. And so I have to make a decision about whether I want to try and go to site 9. But seeing his hand now, I think I made the right call.
Yeah, I think they would have got Lurtz.
Yeah, if they had got one more minion out, I would have been screwed.
Yeah, at least they would have played Lurtz.
So I made the right
Lurtz
decision.
would have been fierce.
This is ailing my conscience.
At some point, I would like to improve the replay system to combine both of the replays together, so that you can
Yeah.
see what both hands were, what both decks were, and just kind of swap back and forth as needed. Because I think just from a training perspective and checking your own decisions perspective, it's good to be able to do that. But I expect a lot of things for the replays to happen that aren't actually necessarily intended to be there, because I think this was really just a debugging feature back in the day.
Yeah.
But
Your minions came quite close, though. If it hadn't been for that last Hobbit stealth.
Yeah, that's what I was counting on. I think I made the right call. He just was well equipped.
Yeah.
so many stealths, so many intuitions.
Oh no. How many?
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4 stealths. 1, 2, 3 intuitions. Yep. So he came loaded.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But at the same time, if a game is going to end at Site 9, I prefer it to look just like this. A Frodo with no friends and completely loaded up on bad conditions and burdens and vitality. I don't feel bad when I lose to this, because, hey, that's just the right amount of carnage.
Exactly.
All right, let's see. So I think that's one we just watched. So this is one that you recommended. Balrog, and this was okay. So do we want to watch it from your perspective, or so this actually moves over into round 5. Okay, so we could do that.
Yeah, let's move into movie. Why not?
Yeah. So this was one that you mentioned had a particularly frustrating loss. Do you want to see it from your perspective or from their perspective?
Well, I've seen it from mine, so
fair enough. So this will be moving over to movie. So we'll be on the king path, and with quite a bit of a bigger deck, it looks like. So,
right.
Yeah, Gary Gelly had a big one.
Was he running one of those discard self-mill decks, or?
I don't think so. I was trying to use just a very sturdy Elfman Fellowship with a very sturdy Mork Shadow side. But I was not prepared for a 20 strength minion at Site 2.
Ouch, yes.
Hello, hello.
Old
Oh, hello.
Faramir
Who's
right off the
this?
jump.
We've got.
This is Kyle.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, hey, Kyle. Welcome to the
Am I
stream.
jumping in at the right point here?
Yeah, sounds. I mean, anytime's good. The more, the merrier.
I see the voice chat. Am I supposed to, or I'm in the voice chat on Discord? Am I supposed to see something on or do anything with OBS, or where
Nope,
am I?
I am.
Where should I be looking at the screen?
So I have a stream going in Discord. If you just join that stream, that is showing this mostly the same thing that shows up on Twitch, with the exception of the card overlay. So that should get you everything you need to see.
So playing Radagast here lost me the game.
So I should see a video feed in Discord.
Yeah, if you right click on Ketura, you should see that there's a stream that you can join. So you say Radagast lost you the game. Was it just because of the Twilight, or because of the drawing?
Because of the extra culture. So I drew Radagast, and because they'd killed my Faramir, I needed another companion, so I played him. And this is what lost me the game.
Yeah, the additional filtering was.
Filtering at all.
It's actually, yeah, it's not the filtering, it's Grima.
You'll see. You will see. And to be fair, I only got a week's practice with this deck, so I wasn't very good at playing it, but we tried.
Interesting that it seems like Gelly's playing the kind of like
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know
site
she
control
had
hybrid deck of just
the
like
other guys.
get all the sites controlled and then play all the mean site control minions.
Oh, they had.
Yeah, it's a weird. I've never seen a Dunlending and Gorgoroth mix, Besieger mix.
Yeah, I think the theory is that like besiegers can get control of the sites faster and more reliably without worrying about Freka being killed. So then once you've got two, you can still do the Elder recursion.
Mm-hmm. Then on top of that, you have some of the besiegers stacking
Yeah.
themselves. So yeah, you get all sorts of hand extension.
Yeah, is this so? This is Sauron and Dunland combined. That is not a strategy I would have thought of on my own.
It was a pretty big deck, so I mean, I guess we'll see how. And Gary, I think, ended up. Where did they end up? About number 15, so right middle of the pack. So didn't upend to the whole place at least, but
At this point, I don't think I'd had the perfect meld of Morks and Gollum and Shelob quite together, so I didn't quite know how to go about it. But
and it can be definitely rough to mix and match different shadows and getting them to work just right. I've seen, for instance, those sorts of splash Shelob situations. Sometimes you're just waiting for the one perfect time to put down Shelob.
It's a good deterrent for going twice, because if one of your companions is out,
that's true. Yeah, knock down their biggest player and make them regret it. So we've got the classic
Destroyer
and Destroyer.
Yeah, I can't quite decide if I think the Destroyer is better or worse after the errata. It's definitely more interesting, with the Shadow player getting the choice of who gets wounded.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's too powerful. The Shadow player getting to choose, that's rough, man.
On the other hand, it's one threat. Wasn't it 2 threats before? And so 2 threats versus an exertion.
Yeah, and if you've got an exhausted Legolas and they play the Destroyer, it's like, well, shit, I have to add the threat, don't I?
Well, that's part of it.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's like 2 buffs and a nerf.
Right, so this is where I get
2 nerfs and a buff.
absolutely eviscerated. So I thought they'd played their only Grima, but no, I was wrong. They play their next Grima and they spot 4 cultures. Wait, hang on, it's gonna happen in a sec. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Puts defense on.
And I've lost Legolas, so I can't new to Grima. So here we go. All my hard work building up these big companions, and poof.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and they can
so 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh
no, because you've got the elf in the.
Is it Noble Leaders that screwed me?
Noble Leaders was the.
Oh my god! I thought it was Elrond that screwed me, but he did Aragorn first. Oh no!
Yeah,
you had backups for both of them, so even after you lost either one, you still had a representation of the other culture in the.
Oh, it doesn't even have to be a companion. It can just be a card on the
field.
Yeah,
I think we
spot 4 for people's cultures.
To be quite honest with you.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Which is why playing Radagast at site 1 or 2 ultimately lost you the game, because that was really the 4th culture, the random wizard culture in there.
Oh my gosh. So having Noble Leaders, which is just a backup of a backup of a backup, it's not even a necessary thing.
Because you rarely get more than one Noble Leader on the table at a time.
It totally screwed me.
So I had misunderstood which Grima was being involved. I thought it was going to be Wormtongue that was going to spot 3 cards on somebody, and so I thought that with the Desperate Defense of the Ring, they were going to slap that on Aragorn to give him 3 cards, and then get rid of both Arwen and Aragorn that way. But no, this is the 4 culture one, which Honestly, I'm kind of surprised that was included, because there's a lot of mono decks running around.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
obviously, it
I
worked
just
here, so who am I to complain?
Very well.
so this is how I
Yeah,
lost the game.
that Grima is definitely it's like a meta strategy. I mean, it's really can just mess up the whole strategy of the whole system.
It's just so painful to have built up your big buffed up companions and then having them just thrown into your hand because you have a slimy Radagast in there.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm not particularly sure why Decipher decided to go for anti-rainbow strategies in Towers block. I guess they looked at the meta and they decided that they didn't like people mixing a bunch of different races into one game, the way that the Fellowship of the Ring is supposed to be kind of played.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I really don't like the bad flavor here, but it also really ended up generally impacting the game. As time went on, you go towards movie block and expanded, and everything becomes very monoculture based, specifically because of the rainbow hate that was introduced with this block. So
Yeah.
Well, and I think that there is some like there's a lot more creativity that comes in when you're mixing cultures
yeah,
rather than just using the pre-designed weapons and pre-designed companions that all work well with each other. Like mixing and matching is a lot more creative, and here I
exactly.
am defending
Yeah.
myself. But
My thinking exactly. So actually, let's go ahead and run ourselves a spin of the wheel. So I'm going to come down here and add all the people that have currently signed up. So let's see. We have 4 things to give away today. We've got 2 DGMA t-shirts. Actually, let me throw up an image here. Let me add my webcam. Shoot. Where is the webcam? Is that working? Okay, so I guess you guys won't be able to see this very well unless you're on Twitch. I could do this, but then we've got kind of a double. Well, actually, no, that should be fine. Yeah, that should be fine. It's covered up on Twitch by the main thing anyway. So we have a bunch of D-Agent t-shirts that have been given to us to hand out. They're fairly straightforward. They just say Decipher, the art of great games on one side, and D-Gamer or D-Agent on the other side, depending on what they are. We also have a series of the trading card t-shirts that they were so fond of doing. So we have about 6 of these. What we're going to end up doing is we will have most of these will end up going to the top 8 players. They will get starting up from the top. Whoever's the champion will get to pick one of these, and then it will go on down the line. But because we have a couple of duplicates in here, in particular, we have a duplicate of Gandalf, Defender of the West. Where'd the other one go? It's in here somewhere. So we'll end up raffling one of these off next week, but not today. So today, what we're going to end up raffling off we're going to end up doing 2 of these t-shirts, 2 of the D-Agent t-shirts here, and then we will also end up doing 2 Minds of Moria starter decks, as donated from Card Game Geek. They're the ones that sponsor those. So right now, we'll go ahead and start with a Minds of Moria thing. So let me turn that off. And we'll just go ahead and spin the wheel. Let me just double check, make sure that we don't have any last minute entrants. Looks like it's fine for now. Okay, spin the wheel for one of the Minds of Moria starters. All right, Stefan77. That is the one that it's going to go into, and we're going to take you out of this listing for the future. You've got your win. All right.
Congrats to Stefan.
you did.
Where is I got way too many spreadsheets to be juggling. Okay, so that was a starter deck. That's going to Stefan. All right, let's move on to something else then. So we had that recommendation by Balrog. We have this one by dstaley. Your game 7. I don't remember.
Oh yeah, this was my undoing. I might have been up in the top 10 were it not for this horrible mistake at Site 9.
All right.
The drama.
Well, I'm excited.
This is actually an interesting one though, because there's some kind of like meta on meta stuff going on here.
So dstaley at the top and Art Branco at the bottom, and we're watching from Art Branco's perspective. So dstaley, you're going with the classic Leader of Men and Forest Guardian opening, so that of course you can save from the fire, burn that ent, and take stuff into hand.
Yeah, to wit, I'll put my hat in the ring of, if we want to balance Gandalf culture, I think the prime target to look at is a Wizards Never Laid. Or errata.
That's
But
definitely
Certainly came into being during a time where it only applied to Gandalf.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So wait a second here. You did the classic opening of flooding the pool entirely. Did he have nothing to offer against anything?
No, he didn't play anything.
Ouch, that hurts. You had like 30 Twilight in the pool, running all the way to Site 3, and that's kind of the one big flood that's going to happen.
That is that if he floods the pool, you won't have enough to play.
That is true. But I always go for Gandalf's staff when I save something from the fire. Just in case they pull out Easterling Captain.
Oh yeah, just to be able to cancel. Yeah, that's a good play.
The Easterling stress me out.
Okay, so we had a Fell Beast on a Twilight and Quaya that would have been able to do quite a bit of damage, but instead Legolas says, I got this, and exhausts himself.
Yeah, a very dead Inquaya, thanks to Legolas.
And it is
I couldn't play anything else in Site 3, so Legolas will get to be healed up, so it's all good.
Yeah. That's always kind of obnoxious as a Shadow player, to see someone expend a bunch of resources that they're just about to clear off anyway.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled to see that there was some Twilight Nazguls being represented here. We didn't play in the event, so I wasn't aware.
Yeah, that makes me happy too. We tried to make Twilight Nazgul a bit more viable with some of the cards that we added to V1.
Oh, Crown and Fell Voice's Call, I think in particular, really made a big difference. Like Pale Crown being able to undo Durin, just being like, Twilight Nazgul, what?
Yeah, it gets around Elves and Men really well too in Fellowship. The Crown is huge for them.
It was, it was specifically worded to be able to knock down Last Alliance. Because that was
But also, I think that errata to Sam, Son of Hamfast, is a really cool opportunity to try and play a corruption side.
Yeah.
That might be successful.
We have had to hit him twice, and I'm still not 100% convinced that he's balanced yet, but we'll see. He was one of those tentpole cards that you couldn't really knock him down as far as he should be able to get knocked down, only because there were some cultures that didn't have any options except for Sam. Like if you're Rohan, then Sam is your only option. You don't have anything else.
Yeah, I was really nervous that we'd not hit him far enough with the last errata batch, but at least primarily playing Twilight Nazgul, his extra exertion usually going on Frodo, I found to be almost as valuable as that burden that he's removed. It's probably less impactful if you're Red Orcs or Easterlings or something, though.
If you pair it with the Twilight Witch King and Twilight Inquire, then it's pretty potent.
Yeah.
It is interesting to see how many people are started playing the Frodo that's play a Ringbound Companion to remove a burden rather than the 12 Strength 1. Just for the sake of you're going to play a Son of Hamfast, you might play Faramir. That maybe pushes you below an Easterling threshold.
Mm-hmm.
which ultimately ends up being worth more than the 2 vitality, the 2 extra resistance that Frodo has.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I faced one of those Frodos, and I believe those were the only 2 ringbound companions I saw played. I was trying to figure out why it wasn't just the 12 resistance one, but that makes sense.
Yeah, because if you have Sam and Faramir in your deck, like net, it's the same amount of burdens removed. It's the same amount of total resistance on Frodo, but you might get below that one of the like full armor or the captain thresholds.
Right. Yeah, no, that's clever play. I hadn't thought of that. I was watching it and kept waiting for another ringbound ranger to pop up, and they never did.
Yeah. And this is the moment that I realized I had to run to the end because Círdan was going to just stop my Nazgul dead in their tracks.
It's Círdan.
Sorry, Círdan.
Here I am pronouncing it Círdan.
Yeah.
Who knows?
C's in Elvish are always pronounced as K's, so you have
Are they?
Celeborn and Círdan, and yeah, that's always
Yeah.
how it's done.
You got to pretend you're Irish.
Teach me to try to learn by reading them.
There's a pronunciation guide in the back, man.
It's been a very long time since I actually sat down with those books. I'm sure there was, and I'm sure I missed it.
This is actually one of the full art cards that I'm most proud of with how it worked out, and
Pretty right.
it's actually
I'm
one of the ones
partial
that
to
makes me so angry that the Nazgul masterwork is just inverted instead of doing anything with the Twilight Nazgul. I feel like you could do a Twilight Nazgul like card template and it would look pretty sick.
Yeah.
Instead,
That'd be
they
pretty
just
cool.
inverted colors and called
Is
it a
this
day.
is this a good time for me to interject and say that the foils are absolutely awful online?
Oh, I turned
yeah.
them off.
Yeah, the foil effect here is garbage. It's
It's
absolutely
horrible.
terrible. It's and
There's a setting that you can just disable them. I have them fully disabled for the
I
game.
did that too, but maybe we could come up with a different type of reward.
so I'm gonna pause this real quick just to show on the wiki we have a list of foil cards, and there were a couple of people that went complete ham, and they scanned or took a picture of every single foil card that exists.
Oh my
I
God.
was super impressed because I set this page up and nobody nobody saw it, and then all of a sudden one guy was like, yeah, and these are way better, especially if I come down here to like the Nazgul ones. They are some of the best here, I think. Like you look at some of these and I'm like, dude, I would much rather have this in Gemp.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very pretty.
Yeah, especially if we can do. There was a guy that was playing around with a kind of a JavaScript thing where it would wiggle the card a little bit when your mouse went over it, so that it would flash the different parts. And yeah, so this is what I want to do eventually. I absolutely want to get rid of that.
That's really cool.
That's a lot cooler.
I support that.
Yeah, if you do go this route, can I just request that we don't foil the strength vitality site number?
Well,
that was the
okay.
thing. Like even back in the day, across the table, it could be
That's
hard
true,
to
that is-
read.
Well, see that's
Yeah.
kind of the nice thing though, is that in a digital context we could actually make it readable and still be cool looking.
Well,
Like,
and that would
yeah.
also be fair. Like I would turn it on if these pictures were what we were playing with.
Yeah.
But I'm just looking even at the picture here. I know the strength value on all of those.
Yeah,
and I
and
could
that's
easily see myself being like, Teya's an 11 because in my head it's Nkea or whatever.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Readability is 100% the thing that you have to look for first.
No,
But,
those look sick though. I really
yeah.
like. Oh my gosh! Sorry,
The-
scroll up a bit.
Yeah, the one with the ring and the tongues.
Reeds in Shadow looks amazing.
Yeah, Wreath and Shadow looks sick.
Yeah. So, like Decipher put in way more effort than you might imagine for all of these cards. For every single one had something that was cut out, and like the sites
so
all
cool.
look pretty universally incredible.
Every single one ring that they foiled for a card that you literally cover for the entirety of play.
Yeah.
They are all gorgeous.
Yeah, all of them are ridiculous. It's.
I look
yeah,
at the
so
ring
it's-
with the neon
Text,
writing on
yeah,
it.
on the writing.
Amazing. Anyway, sorry.
No. I mean, I love gushing over these. Yeah. So like the foil effect on Answered All
It's
Riddles is all
just
bubbles.
beautiful. Like it's just the bubbles coming up through the water and hitting the surface.
Yeah, and this is the direction I want to take Gemp in, and I just want to go hard on effects that look cool without reducing their
Oh, that
understandability.
ring looks crazy cool.
Yeah, these are way better than a lazy ass, rainbow effect. Like this is just. But at the same time, I can't believe it. But there's so many people that love collecting the foils, and maybe it's just the collecting aspect that they want to have the different visual aspect. I don't know, but they're trash.
I can see that. I have them turned off because I find them very distracting. But if they weren't distracting, even if they didn't look good, I could see kind of like the bragging rights behind, like, check out, my entire deck is glittery.
Yeah, that is true, and so I want to get to. I just want to get to the point where wanting to do that doesn't sear your eyes to do it.
Yeah.
And then we can have the best of both worlds, right? You can brag and actually have something worth bragging about.
So to get the foils on Gemp, do you have to like win something, or what's the process for that?
So what you have to do on Gemp, it's kind of let's see, where's the actual game hall? Here it is. So this is actually the only usage for gold at this point. If you go to your account, you have a certain amount of gold that you have earned by logging in every week, and then when you go into the merchant here, this will allow you to purchase copies of cards for your My Cards collection, which in the deck builder here, if you switch over from all cards to My Cards, these are all the cards that you have quote unquote earned for your collection. And then in the merchant, there is an option to here. So if you have multiple copies of a particular card, you can trade 4 of them in for a foil. So I could take this and click on that, and then do you want to do that? And then it didn't show up in here, but probably in the hall. Here we go. So now I've got a foil version of that in Horde that would now be sitting in my inventory, and I could use it in my decks. So you can do that with all sorts of cards, with the full arts, with the regular cards, with the Masterworks, whatever. And I do like that aspect that it's like, okay, so you had to get to the point where you were collecting 4 copies of this card before you get to bling it. That kind of thing is cool in a progression and long-term collection aspect. I just wish that the end result was not so trash.
Yeah.
But
we play events too. I don't know what the logic is, but we do get foil cards rewarded for wins, maybe, or just for playing enough games.
So you get in events you do get a certain number of random foil cards that are awarded. You also end up getting various packs, various booster packs. In fact, here I could probably just show one of them off while we're on stream. So my account is basically a debug account, so I have a bunch of stuff I haven't earned here. But so one of the things that you can get. Oh, you know what? It's not on here. So let's just do some movie magic, and we're gonna add it to my account. So I'm going to go into product. This is the miscellaneous packs.
I'm pretty sure I have some too. If you'd like a quick screen share swap just to show it off.
No,
I haven't opened any of the stuff you've sent me.
It'll be pretty quick. So I got placement, random chase selector, and then on the admin account, I'll just go over and to the permanents, we'll just add 100 of these because I am mad with power.
We're all lucky that you didn't compete. You would have just showed up with
all sorts
12
of stuff.
strength Frodos.
Oh yeah, like
there.
Where'd that card come from? Well, leadership.
It's like back in the real early days of Magic the Gathering, there was rumors that there was like a handful of cards that only Richard Garfield owned, but that he was allowed to play them in events.
Oh, this was
We've got the secret Ketura cards.
All the stuff that I code when nobody's watching. Random chase card, any random foil. Okay, I think it's this. It's the one that I need to give myself. Oh, no, that was not it. Well, anyway, so this is one of the things that gets awarded in, and you'll end up getting various random foils or cards. Like there was a Tangwar, for instance, that was in there. So when you win events, you'll end up getting like a big old booster pack that's like 10 of these. One of one of these various packs. I don't remember what they're all called. So it's having a hard time finding the right one. Oh, Event Chase Booster. That's all it was. Right there at the end.
Isn't that what you had just done?
I did the
event,
high
not
planes.
random.
Yeah. So there's one that you get for high placement, and then there's one that you get just for being. There's one that's intended for leagues and one that's intended for tournaments. And so the one I gave myself was the tournament one, which just gives you individual selectors. But this one, the event award booster, this is the one that you'll end up getting. That gives you random foils, which usually has a higher profile card over here on the far left. So there's one of the full arts that got awarded. Here's a masterwork that got awarded, and so on. And so you can go into the merchant and you can sell the ones that you don't care for. But you can also, I think, get some foils this way. Like some of these can randomly end up as foil versions of the promo cards, like he was showing off. So here we go. Yeah, we have a foil masterwork that just showed up in our.
Yeah, this is a great example of why I turn foils off. Like when it's just the one, it can be a little distracting, but the whole screen like
yeah, when your whole screen is kind of fluctuating, you're like, wow, what did I start this match on LSD? Yeah, this is
I can't focus on anything.
Totally understandable. Anyway, that was a big long tangent. So let's hop back over here and restart this game. So Enquea versus Kirdan in a skirmish. Kirdan, of course, just going crazy. Now, I am rather proud of Kirdan's errata there, where the better that the more that he works, the less that he's effective in the future.
Yeah,
it is very good.
It's a good balance of that.
I've considered playing around with a deck that actively only has a handful of events for him to just be able to kind of reduce you by like 3 or 4, never so much that he's likely to.
What's that?
Get
You mean it would only be a -3? I think that sounds like mission accomplished.
See, I've played around with a deck with him where you're doing Dwarf Mill and your whole deck is events.
Yes, and that's actually one of those situations where I think the Dwarf Mill deck is able to keep up with even with the errata and doesn't care that you're removing a few of them at a time.
Right. If you're -40 to start with and you're -24 by the end, I think you're still winning.
Yeah. Fine.
Yeah, the self mill is actually something we need to address, and we're not sure how. There's all the situations that I've come up with so far have involved so much text that it might just require a rework to the concept.
Yeah.
It is true that sometimes you can tell the errated or V cards just by the fact that they have way more text than every other card.
Are we drawing cards here? Is that what we're doing?
Let's see. Spot your minions, 6 companions to make the move limit for this turn -1. Oh no, he's okay.
He's really wanting it to be minus.
Wants to make sure that you are not moving. Yeah, that's.
That is actually one of the things in game that can be easy to miss. Effects that only benefit you once, but are triggerable multiple times. You know, putting on the ring as a maneuver action is another one of those, where it's when it's still highlighted, it's easy to think, oh, I must not have done it.
Yeah, and that's actually, and Lurtz is another example too, where he can make himself fierce, and you're like, okay, did I make him fierce? I really don't want him to not be fierce. And I've actually been trying to stamp some of those out and changing the code so that even though it's technically, against the rules, like making it so that Lurtz checks to see if he's already fierce, and then if not, the ability is just not available. Just because from a pure usability standpoint, why would you ever trigger that again? That is kind of a bit of a landmine issue because we have to make sure that there's not any costs or effects or anything side effects that you might want to use. But situation like this, it should just say spot your minions 6 companions to make the move limit -100 and just leave it at that. Like there's no reason to.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because you can do it infinitely. Like just set the move limit to 1, or cannot move again this turn.
Yeah. Exactly.
There might be an edge case though where you go, okay, I'm cool with them double jumping, but they were, they'd played, I don't know, there's no river here to do gift of boats, but they'd done something to get plus move, and I just don't want them to be able to make it to 9.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So I do think it's less about it being possible to do more than once. You can imagine times where paying a
Oh, for
cost
sure.
is
Yeah,
advantageous.
I'm more just about
but
the
just being
usability
more
here. And
clear.
yeah, the interface is just not.
It'd have to be some weird situation where like you wanted them to move on to site 8 so you could get more cards out of your hand, but you didn't want them to move on to site 9 so they could win. But I mean, theoretically, anything's possible.
I can see that, right? You're like, okay, maybe they're gonna try to keep going, and like I've got a kill shot, right? Like maybe I can do something there,
Mhm.
but I have no confidence that I'm gonna draw more cards or I'm out of cards. Like if they double jump, I have a chance to kill them, and then I don't have to worry about my own double jump. But if they triple jump, I'm in trouble because I can't
Yeah.
stop. My hand is good as a stopping hand. My deck is empty. I cannot let them do the second one. And I'd rather have the chance to kill them than forcing myself to double jump next turn.
Yeah.
It's
Some of the
also
other-
worth. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's also worth looking at Final Strike because it always gets highlighted as something you can click on, even if you don't have Golem out, which seems a bit silly.
Oh, the golem condition that lets you return with your hand does the same thing.
Oh
You
yeah.
can go ahead and stack golem on web, and then still have that highlighted. Be like, what? But I don't want to discard it. For no
Yeah.
effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is where I lost it.
Oh
Shortly.
yeah, were we approaching your moment?
My doom.
We got
Where I
Fire
didn't
Red.
consider that the game doesn't end until the end of the regroup phase.
Yeah. So that was a
What
change
was
that we did with the PC formats. So that instead of being
Yeah.
at the
Reasoning
beginning.
behind that, by the way, just wondering.
So part of it is symmetry. The fact that on every other site you end up going all the way to,
That's where I knew
you
it.
have your regroup events that are able to be
Oh,
played.
you didn't put the ring on.
Yeah,
No, it's not that I didn't put the ring on.
Oh, it's
I
that it comes
forgot
off in the regroup
Dark
phase.
as Darkness against End Horde. I could
Yep.
have survived if I'd put Dark as Darkness against End Horde, but I'm dead.
Boom. So he kills him because there was one final regroup. Now, so to answer the question, the reasoning that we wanted to go in and have regroup events was initially because of Eisenorks. The fact that they're not able to do anything for those Hail Marys. But I've actually had some other situations, like for instance, Gleaming in the Snow is a card that that could theoretically win you the game at the end if you have a copy of it. It is a regroup event. Exert Isengard or a Sauron Orc and spot a Condor Companion to add a burden.
Oh yeah.
You could be that close and unable to use it. There's other situations where it's like, okay, you don't have any other chance except for this regroup phase. Why not let people have that final Hail Mary to get stuff done? And honestly, like, while this is kind of tragic that you missed that and you lost it, this is exactly the kind of Hail Mary play that I was trying to enable. Was letting Shadow have that final little grasp before you got away.
I was just kicking myself because as soon as I finished the assignments, I realized, and it was like, I messed this up. I could have just had Darkest Darkness be overwhelmed. I still could have had everyone survive, do the threats in a different way, etc. But as soon as I did the assignments, I realized it.
He was so distraught.
I was very distraught.
Yeah, he was very upset.
Yeah, that's
It's
definitely one of those
fair.
understandable ones. But I personally love that we get a regroup phase at Site 9.
I'm trying to
it's
not
good.
have too much Schadenfreude at your expense, but as the person who orchestrated that change, all I can think of is mwahaha. That
Fair play.
Oh, you didn't have to live with him, so.
Let's see, Mark, you snuck in here at some point.
I did. Yeah. Hi. Sorry, I was late to the party. I forgot that my son had soccer today.
No worries.
Hi,
As we're taking a
what's
pause, could I just check?
your-
I see two people talking under dstaley. Is that Belrug?
Oh, yes, that's me. Yeah, sorry.
I was guessing, but I wasn't positive.
Sorry, yeah, that's me. Kyle, who are you?
I'm Kyle JWX
Unless
on
you don't
Gemp
want
as
to
well.
say
Oh, cool.
I'm not sure that I've seen you around or played against you too much, but glad to have you as part of this.
I probably more often we're playing under my son's account, so he's actually sitting in the same room playing a game right next to me. So he didn't want to be on the call, but he wanted to participate on his own game. So I'm trying to
Fair
pass it
enough.
down to the younger generations.
Well done, well done. My oldest is still 4, so I think we're a little ways away, but hoping he gets into it down the road, as long as ketura keeps up the whole system we've got here.
I'm hoping that indoctrination is not the only way we can get new players, but if it's all we got right now, then I'll take it. Well, while we got a bit of a pause here, let's go ahead and spin the wheel again. This time, I'm going to go ahead and spin it for one of the Decipher shirts, one of these black ones. So let me just double check and make sure that nobody has added. We've had nobody else that's signed up on the form. I will just paste this again to make sure for the future. But we'll go ahead and spin this right now. So this is for the first t-shirt, and we'll see who gets it. GFM Page. Hey, that was even one of the people that joined the stream. So
Awesome.
right on. So you've got your... Whoops. Okay, that spin does nothing. Ignore that spin. That was not me trying to do that. So we'll just not even see who it was. All right, let me just put that in the spreadsheet over here for the first t-shirts.
While we're paused too, can I just ask, dstaley, am I saying your name right?
Staley. As
Staley.
in Lane Staley of the famous rock band.
And is it dstaley or dstaley?
Oh, yeah, dstaley. It's just
dstaley.
I was one of those like lame people who's just like, however, years ago actually, my cousin told me about Gemp and was like, oh yeah, dstaley, first initial, last name.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're active enough kind of in the normal Gemp chats that I'm frequently playing or chatting with YK is my most common opponent, and
Nice.
we've talked about whether or not we're saying your name correctly.
Yeah, Balrog was very happy to discover that YK and Talia were also women playing this game.
YK
Oh, yeah.
is? Oh, I didn't know YK was.
Yep.
Huh. Well.
What did you say?
Yeah, I don't know Talia.
You weren't the
believe
only girl playing this game.
Yeah, I had no idea that YK was, and that's great. I like it's something that I've tried to move away from assuming. Like I try not to say he and him all the time. You never know. But it's also one of those things that's pretty invisible, with no voice chat, no.
Right, and we're all using pseudonyms, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like we don't even have first names there to try to take a guess by.
Yep, Balrog. I wouldn't have expected Balrog to be anything, but you know.
Yeah, I dstaley roped me into this.
Yeah.
And I said a joke username at the beginning, thinking that this would be nothing, and then now I'm stuck with it. Sorry.
Apparently there was some like obnoxious player called Morgoth69 that you got mistaken for.
Someone... Are you an alt for Morgoth69? Like, he was an asshole. I'm like, no, I promise I'm not.
It's a very common funny number, okay? Like.
Indeed.
Yes. Cheap joke, sorry.
All right, so this was one of the ones that was, let's see, this is just one of Mock's games.
I was gonna say, this looks like my last game.
Yep, round number 8. So you said that you were playing pipes, so I guess we'll see how pipes are working in the movie.
I've played with a few variations, trying to utilize an alternate ring bearer so I don't have to try to keep Frodo alive. And this one seems to be doing the best. This is actually probably a good example of a game too, because I'll be honest, I don't play a lot of movie, and so I don't have a great understanding of how the Dast's knights work. And they were destroying me, but there was too many cards on the field with a time limit for me to be able to actually go through and read everything. So I was just running for it once he got set up.
So who's... See, I'm trying to figure out. It looks like are the pipes Oh, the pipes are on the bottom because we're playing from Mockingbird.
Yeah,
We're watching it from Mockingbird's perspective. Okay.
Right, yeah. So we got Mock on the
Yep.
bottom, his perspective, and then the Dast up top, who's playing Nazgul, or Morks and Nazgul, rather.
Yeah. Is it possible to change my Gemp name? Mockingbird ME is like the full long version of what I've used for ages, but I always go by Mock in the chats.
So
So I feel like I'm using two different names.
You can, of course, freely make a new account, and you can import your decks and do it that way. That's what I've done with Ketura. I was on
Okay,
Retail
that makes
Square for
sense.
my old one. In the future, I would like to be able to have the infrastructure to change names, but there's some really bad database decisions that hard code everybody's name everywhere. So every single replay you've ever been involved with has your name hard coded into it, and so if I change it, I have to change it everywhere, and it's
That is fair.
yeah, kind of a pain.
I may go ahead and just make a new login then.
You will not be the first. Before we had password resetting, people would just have to make a new account if they forgot their password. So looking in the database, I can see where there's some old timers that have just incremented a number, and they've had to make like 12 accounts because they kept forgetting what password they were using.
Is that a Too Great and Terrible that just got dropped? Isn't that target?
It
targets
was.
Gandalf.
Yeah, I teched two of them specifically to deal with Elven telepathy.
Yeah.
As I'm sure others in this chat might be able to tell you, that kind of destroys Twilight Nazgul. Probably Nazgul in general, but I
and
tossed two of them in here.
Destroys like Elven telepathy in general. I am famously the one who runs Forearmed to an abusive degree. And the amount I've had to anti-tech Too Great and Terrible to keep Gandalf manager of Wizards alive.
Yeah, it absolutely saved me one game. I don't want to go into details because it's a player who made it to the top 8, but I started with two of them, and they started with only Frodo and Gandalf. And that was a very short game.
So while running the group stage, there were a few games that I saw ended in about 5 minutes in a couple of rounds, and I was like, "Holy crap! What happened there? Like what?"
Yep, I still don't know what fellowship they were running. They dropped a couple of
just over immediately.
Yeah, they put down Elrond and I think is it Thorin, the dwarf ally who can speed bump.
Thorin, yeah.
And went ahead and moved to Site 2, and I didn't have any Twilight in my hand, but I had I think a Taldea and maybe an Orc. Tossed them down and double Great and Terrible, and they conceded before we even got to assignment. It was by far my fastest game.
So, wow, you're definitely putting on the hurt here. Those Two Greats and Terribles so far.
It regularly feels like I'm putting on the hurt against his fellowship. He spends most of the time pretty close to wounded out, and I don't think he was ever actually in any danger from me.
Interesting.
He's not quite set up yet, but he gets this engine of just recurring one fortification that exhausts me and another one that reduces my
vitality.
Vitality by 1. I was once able to survive it because I had a Pale Crown that I could toss on after getting exhausted, but at no point was I wasn't able, because of this kind of engine that he gets, I wasn't able to win consistently enough to ever threaten Boromir properly. And he will eventually play, I don't think it's in play yet, but maybe it's that second to right card. The one where Aragorn Signet can exert, and then Aragorn exerts to remove burdens.
Yep.
And he just constantly removes anything I can add.
Is that
and then beats me.
Yep. Yeah, this is a VSET card that was added.
Yep. I love it as a concept. I think it's a great card. Not a complaint that it was destroying me. Just he had a really nice setup. And again, this is not a fellowship that I know. So we got to a point, we're probably still a site or two away from it. But we get to a point where I just recognize that I'm not stopping him, and I just start doubling.
Yeah. Yeah, the times that I was running Twilight Nazgul as well, and the times that I came across knights, I'm just like, you're going to exhaust me every time with that fortification. I'll outrun you. If you're going to exhaust me every time, what can I do?
And everything has their counter, right? I'm not, I really enjoy Twilight Nazgul. I think they're pretty strong in movie. I'm not convinced I'm playing the best variant of them here. but I think they do a really good job. And you know,
What
getting
fortification
countered somewhere just means your fellowship needs to be able to hold up. And well, you'll see. But once we get to Site 8, I think I remove something like 15 wounds with pipes before continuing on.
Sorry, which one is the fortification that exhausts you?
Let's see.
Oh, it's a -1 strength. It's next to the book. Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Oh,
There
okay.
it is. Yeah, exhaust that minion. So that's the ultimate combo. You do fourth wall and then either Stone Tower or Citadel of the Stars, and that's an instant kill.
Yeah, and then I think it's 6th wall that lets him recur those, so he just gets to go fetching them again.
Yep.
Which is, there's so much exerting and all of that, is why he will, throughout this, if you just kind of glanced at the table, you might think my shadow was kicking his ass. It never is. You know, he 100% has me beat on shadow here.
So that's one of those actually truly uncounterable plays, is hitting someone with minus vitality when they're exhausted.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
no single
and
thing anybody
that
can
is
do.
a little rough with the recursion element of it. I suppose if I wasn't playing a, you know, ideally I have one big minion kind of deck. If I had 3 or 4 medium minions, it wouldn't be nearly the same kind of deal. But that one...
Well, especially because the fellowship gets the first action.
Right. Yeah, it
I mean,
being
just-
uncounterable and recursive, I think is...
So, but some condition removal on the shadow side would pretty much take care of that, wouldn't it?
One Saruman's
Power,
power,
100%.
and you're done. Like, I've Knights is actually one of the only decks that I've played extensively in movie, and I did have a lot. Like, it's very fun to knock down Shelob to finally just say, yes, you are dead. Like, get that stupid spider out of my face. But yeah, anyone with any kind of condition removal will just tear you apart.
Yeah.
Other than Saruman's power, though, what is a good shadow condition removal?
So
I mean, Saruman's power is the only wipe that I'm aware of.
It's definitely the only nuke. But here, let's actually answer that question. So we can come over here to the advanced card search on the wiki.
Nazgul have a couple ways of getting rid of conditions. The Pale Blade is a great answer if you're not using a Twilight Nazgul who also wants to be exerting. Also, it doesn't help against this, because he still needs to win.
Yeah, exactly. You still have to win the skirmish.
But there's it's a 2 cost. I'm forgetting the name.
For Nazgul?
Yeah, is it Beauty is Fading?
Oh, Beauty is Fading is terrible. That one is...
Yeah, that's...
there's... The 5 just kills it.
They've got a 2 costs... Or maybe I'm making this up. I'd swear they had a 2 cost card that let you discard a condition. And maybe I'm just wrong here. I don't know that one.
I'm not seeing...
It's just one of the fascinating things I like about the game is that, like, yeah, Knights look super powerful with this great strategy, but there's always this one thing that can just destroy it. So, like, not if every single person was making Knights their fellowship, then every single shadow deck would start playing, which I
You'd very quickly see, Isengard become a go-to.
And then eventually everybody would say, oh, everybody's playing Isengard, so now I'm going to change my fellowship. And it just keeps rolling over. It just keeps the whole meta just keeps rolling over and over against each other, which is what makes it so interesting to me.
Yeah, the real problem with Saruman's power for Isengard is that a lot of Isengard's strategies require conditions.
Yeah, so
it's kind of a real dangerous sword.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, the Fellowship nukes, I'm running Sleep Gahadris in the game we're just watching. I don't run a single Fellowship condition in that deck.
And then it just becomes free, which is one of the reasons why I want to address those nukes at some point, because I don't like that the entire meta is dependent upon them. I do think that there's room for discard like 5 conditions, but not everything. Like, come on, like that's quite a bit. Now, so there's discovered here that they can use on for any raider card that can get you 1 or 2. The Pale Blade, of course, can every time the Witch King wins, that's 3 conditions that can get discarded. I know that Great Hill Troll is a very frequently used condition removal. Grond, of course.
Grond, yeah.
Grond will nuke anything. But yeah, Saruman's power is the big one.
And as we talked about earlier, you see an interesting thing with like Mork decks that use Fens splashing 1 Saruman's power and a couple Grima, and then when they get Saruman's power, they use Fens to pull Grima.
Mm-hmm.
What?
No, that makes sense.
So Balrog, what he's talking about is how Grima can get pulled back with evil smelling Fens, and then using him to activate.
Oh, and then you
Saruman's
can
power.
use Saruman's power. Okay, got it. Sorry.
Right, because it's just an Isengard minion. Doesn't have to be an Urk guy.
Yep.
So there's Stone Tower, the other minus vitality one.
That's such a good card.
I like the splashing.
Oh, good. Carry on.
Yeah, back in Two Towers, there was at least one site where you could pull Saruman out from your draw deck, I think, or your discard pile, and so that was a good place to get that out. And the one Saruman could also discard a condition just by coming on the table too, so you could kind of set up a system there.
Oh, that's right.
Some of those Two Tower sites were pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Towers always feels like it was a very short era, if only because people nowadays seem to move from Fellowship to movie and just kind of skip over.
And even at the time, like, there was still a lot of Fellowship specific play.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty sure once King came out, I don't think I ever played a Towers block game again.
Yeah.
Do you guys like playing Towers?
It is not my favorite format by any stretch.
There are some people who that is the case. There's a lot of advocates that say that they like the dynamics that Towers brought to the game. It didn't power creep the heck out of anything yet. I think, however, its problem, and if you look at the stats for what formats get played, it is very little. It's usually less than the PC formats even. The big problem with it is that that's where the thematics of the game kind of start to crack a little bit, especially when you've got, you're at Helm's Deep and you've got a big old Rohirrim army, but also there's Frodo, and you're kind of like, well, what? Like, this is it just kind of, like I said, the cracks just start to show a little bit.
Interesting.
So I think this is the moment in game where I recognized that I had to double move here.
Yeah.
So I'm using Barlaman, I'm stacking my hand, I'm getting Terrible and Evils. I know I'm not going to win with my Shadow, because he's about to heal, and I'm never going to get this many wounds on him again. So I'm pretty sure, regardless of what he put out, I was doubling here to try to make it through.
So what were you saying, Balrog? You were saying something.
Oh no, I was going to say that dstaley first tried to get me into this game by purchasing starter decks from the Towers block, and we played in real life, and I was just like, I could not get it. It just felt very crazy to me. But I feel like the Towers block specifically is a very tricky one. I wish we would have started with the Fellowship block, and then I would have got it. That's all I'm saying. So.
Right on.
Towers block, I don't know which set it was, but while starters were never terribly well balanced,
yeah,
there was one set that had a Faramir and something else. And I remember on the release, we always did a sealed release tournament, and we had like 30 people or something, and the top 15 were entirely the 15 that had pulled the Faramir deck. So if that's kind of the point you're starting with, it might feel a little like, this game really is kind of determined ahead of time.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the reason we started with that is because Towers decks are also the cheapest on eBay if you want to go for starters.
So then he was like, oh, you know what we need to do? We need to like download every single copy of every single card ×4 and print them. And so then I went on a website, like before I knew that Gemp existed, I went on a website and tried to figure out how much it would cost to print every card out. And it was like fucking £3,000.
Oh,
sorry,
my goodness.
It was an obscene amount of money. And I was like, do we actually need every card? What game is this that you're trying to like get me into? I don't understand. and it was just an obscene amount of money to get them printed. But luckily we found Gemp.
Was
Well,
that,
you would have
was that
very
before
quickly.
we had the VKit tool made?
I may not have known about the VKit tool at that
What's
time.
the VKit tool?
So it's a tool that we stole from the Star Wars group that allows you to come in here and create PDFs of whatever cards you want. So you can just come on here and you can add, find your cards, add them all over. I'll just say, let's add all these, and then you can pick your quality. If you want super high quality, you can go huge, but you can get away with double or original. And it will sit here and download all of the images for you, put them into a PDF that's just set up on a 3x3 grid, and then you just print that on your regular old printer. And
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's quite
Ah.
handy.
That would have been helpful.
Yeah, and then you just have some card sleeves, generic playing cards to slide them in front of, sorted.
yep,
Oh,
that's
okay.
pretty much exactly what
Would
it's
have been
built for.
way cheaper.
Yeah, you were looking into like professional printing services.
Yes, I was, because that's what you wanted.
Yeah, so this is the sort of thing you get. It's just all
Oh,
printed
that's
out and
sick.
ready to go.
Yeah. Pick up a
That's so
set
cool.
of scissors or a paper cutter, and
Yep, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome.
go from there.
Wander
That's
into
very
any
cool.
local gaming store and ask them for all the commons somebody doesn't want from whatever game they're playing.
Yeah.
Use that as your
I have a
backer.
box that came from an eBay sale where somebody had a lot that they were selling, and I took a chance on it, and it turned out to be nothing but like 20 copies of the set 5 starter decks that have been opened up that had the fixed rares. And I was like,
Oh.
this is garbage.
Oh,
You tried to
yeah.
label this as a lot. I got held over a barrel. So I'm actually kind of surprised to see My Heart Tells Me getting used so much here. That seems to be one of the very few V cards that was added in besides Gilraid's
Yeah,
Memorial.
he used it very heavily to
It's a very
to
good
keep
card.
his people healed, because he didn't care if I had wounds on me. That wasn't a problem for
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
That was also like in Basmalis' Ent deck that apparently everyone ripped off for movie, who was running the Leader of Men Forest Guardian deck, was kind of key in that one as well. Myself included in the ripping off Basmalis.
Here's where I go from fully exhausted to fully healed. I even add a few exertions in for good measure.
So let's see how many pipes we got here. We've got
I've got 3, but Gimli has exerted once so far, and he's about to exert a second time.
Oh, okay.
So I effectively have 5 at the moment.
Gimli's pipe, Ken's
Absolutely
pipe.
epic.
Yeah,
Hopefully
Gimli's pipe's not limit once per turn. It just lets you go
Chain
heavy.
smoke. Yeah, that guy could just.
Uh-huh. You walk into Site 9 in a cloud of smoke, and
The ring is yours. That's just like your opinion, man.
Is Sleep Caradras an original card from the Fellowship?
Yeah, it's
it
Fellowship block.
is.
Yep. Set 1. That's honestly, I think that's one of those things they were just kind of throwing at the wall, and it stayed for the entire game.
Yeah, I don't think they understood the power level of it when they released it, because Sorman's power was the same set, I believe.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
There were
Those
mirror
then
streaks on
became
it. Yep.
just meta-defining.
Saruman's power is also from the first one?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. So is Inquaya,
Oh.
Shotgun Inquaya. So is
Son of
Oh,
Alphas.
wow.
Servant of the Secret Fire. Like there were Greenleaf. Lots of stuff that they released on that very first set that they didn't realize what they had
Yeah,
done.
they did some good work.
A Wizard is Never Late.
Is that from the first one too?
Mm-hmm.
Parliament.
Though, in fairness, that one didn't become kind of busted until much later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there were a few that just were kind of nothing cards or very middling until later. One of them being Consorting with Wizards, the card that makes Bilbo immune to wounds, that became very popular
Right.
once there was a ring bearer
Oh,
Bilbo.
There was a
Jesus.
ring bearer for it, yeah.
Yeah, a couple times I've been running Twilight Nazgul and I'm like, fuck, you have the Bilbo Ring Bearer? I can't do anything against this because I know Consorting is coming immediately.
Well,
Was
and some
Alex
of these
Bilbo-
too. Like,
I
we
think in the
didn't...
first set?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking over you, Balrog. Please go ahead.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. Was Ally Bilbo a thing in the first set?
Yeah, Ally Bilbo was in the very first set, and
there's
Consorting I think
two
was
of
set
them.
2 maybe.
Yeah.
Sounds right.
Carry on. I didn't mean to talk over you.
Oh yeah, I was just some of these even that like have been powerhouses from the very beginning. It took a minute before kind of they were acknowledged that way.
Yeah.
I remember when people were first opening Greenleaf, they were like, "Why is this a rare? Why would I want to wound myself just to get one wound on you?" But like once
And
we
then they're like,
started
"Oh, it
actually
makes me a
seeing it in
Gatling
play,
gun.
it's like,
That's right."
oh, that's why.
Yeah, I thought the same thing about Greenleaf for the longest time. I'm like, but all the other Legolesses are just an archer. Why would you want to exert yourself to like not be an archer? It's weird. I don't
Right.
get it.
Like I'm not gaining anything by doing this. But then either you boost your own vitality or you combo it with Aragorn's bow. You heal up every turn, you're facing more you swarms, you're like, this is like the most valuable card in my deck.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is Aragorn's bow from the first set?
Yep.
Yeah, certainly the first block.
No,
Was it
yeah.
first set?
Bo was first set. Yep. That's definitely.
It's like, I mean, all these foundational cards we're talking about here is like why I can't even wrap my head around trying to build a deck that is just like towers only or king only, is because I started with, Fellowship, Mines of Moria, Realms. And so like I have those cards in my head. So like trying to build a deck that works without considering a Greenleaf being either a shadow I have to fight, or as I'm building my shadow, something I have to contend with. Like it just doesn't work for me to try to start in the middle,
And it's honestly
There's
that kind of consideration that I think is why there are expanded proponents nowadays. Because one of the big things about expanded is or at least standard when it first started was that it rotated out those first few sets, and so people had to shift and change how they thought. And so even though expanded wraps back in those older sets, people had the chance to see, okay, there's other things that we can do that are not just changed to these cards.
Yeah, the point that I stopped playing in real life was like Shadows standard, where you'd phased out fellowships, you had towers on, but Hunters nonsense hadn't been released yet.
Mm-hmm.
And with like the local community back in Wisconsin back in the day, that was the most fun time I ever had with it, when you were doing like the interesting path stuff of post King, but you didn't have the nonsense of Hunters yet, and you had all the fellowship stuff phased out. That was like War of the Ring standard, I think is what we call it in Gemp today. It was probably the least popular format, but it was a really fun one for me in real life.
Yeah, I can believe it.
Interesting.
To the point of sometimes people don't know how OP something is at the beginning. That's even true for some of the mainstays like Galadriel, Lady Redeemed. When she was first released, for the first couple of worlds after, like you don't see her listed in the lists.
I was shocked when on Gemp people were complaining about her when I first found Gemp, 9 months ago or whatever, because I remember her being kind of a nothing card. I stopped playing after. To be honest,
people do put it a little bit too far, because I mean, like we've errated her a couple times, and she's not as all encompassing as she once was, but people still have the habit of blaming her. Yeah.
Shout out to those couple players who always put parentheses no GLR.
Oh, now I'm gonna get on a tangent here, but like you only do that if you have like the Easterlings possessions or the Corsairs, or you only do that if you're gonna be absolutely fucked by her. So sorry for the language. But it's whatever.
Well, so I think clearly we create a new meta around that, and we all just start saying, no Galadriel Ringbearer, and we run 0 conditions on our shadow sides.
Yep.
Like, have people be like, all right, can't do Galadriel Ringbearer, but I'm going in hard with Gandalf and Sleep. And it's just wasted cards.
Yeah, the number of times I've run my, like, Barlaman, Save from the Fire, Grown Suddenly Tall, and it's like, oh, you'd like to run Ninja Golem against me in Expanded PC. This is fun for you. I'm going to play Grown Suddenly Tall like 8 times in this game.
Yeah, and that's one of the... I think Ketura was saying this earlier, where just those new cards, there are strategies that are good until your opponent has Grown Suddenly Tall or has Sleep Cahadras. And it's just like, well, it didn't just like stop it a little bit. I mean, like, in the game on the screen right now, I had my conditions discarded. I'm missing, my ability to save my Nazgul from taking wounds, and I don't have forgetting what it's called, the one that when I kill one of your companions, you add a burden. Like those are gone here, but those don't make or break the deck. But I really like Ninja Golem, and I almost never play it because it's just kind of an NPE. If my opponent, we start the table, and it's like, oh, they started Gandalf. I've already lost.
And what's that one Golem card, the Free People's Golem card that you can use that just completely obliterates it?
Habits is
Clever habits.
The discard any number of Golem culture conditions.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that had a limit to it, I wouldn't be nearly so bothered. Because I think it's clever that it can work against Golem.
Yeah, discard any number of Golem conditions. I'm gonna pick.
But
have you ever seen that used like an anti-shadow?
I don't think it was intended to be anti-shadow. I think that what it was included,
but
it was like
it's 100%. I've seen it teched.
Really?
Back in the day, people, if they weren't running Gandalf, Ninja Golem was a problem. Like it was one of the scariest shadow sides, and if you didn't have condition removal because you were running Gandalf or Elves, it was not uncommon to slot in a copy or two of Clever Hobbits, even if you wouldn't have Smeagol.
I never thought of using that to attack their shadow cards.
Yeah, you don't even have to spot Golem to play it. It's just like, did you play a lot of Golem conditions? Oh, they're all gone.
Say goodbye to all of your evil smelling fens, even if you're not doing Ninja Golem. Like you can just
Interesting.
So to Ryu in the chat here, you've said a couple of things here. So I wanted to point out that you said, honestly, I know a game or two that would love something like that VKit tool for their games. Just so you know, VKit is open source. I can get you the link if you want to hop onto the PC Discord. So that's definitely something that's available to you. And actually, let's go ahead and roll another roll. We've had a little bit of time. Has anyone tried to sign in? We've had one more person, looks like. So I'll add their name here to the end. Okay, so this roll will make it for the other Minds of Moria starter. So let's go ahead and spin that wheel. See who gets it. Oh no, I'm totally gonna butcher this. Yuri Katina? I don't know how to speak Polish. Let me double check. I think that's one of our... I'm pretty sure that there's a name that is more familiar for that. That's actually...
Yeah, I noticed you have some real names in here as opposed to...
Well, that's the names that people chose when they signed in. I made it optional. They can pick whichever they wanted, and they decided for that. So that is Axter. So we will send him that Minds of Moria starter sometime here. As soon as we get all the prizes all figured out.
Send him kisses from me too.
Will do. You'll have to ship those here first, though.
All right, hey guys, I gotta jump off here, but this was awesome. I'm so excited to see the World Championship, and I'm gonna try to jump in on the live stream next weekend too. So
awesome, yeah. Thanks for joining. That's definitely something I want to have done next time. And this is it's okay to have the replays, but I definitely would prefer to have the live event and see what people are doing.
I'm all up for that.
Are we able to access all these replays? Are they going to be posted so we can see all of them?
I will post them, but probably not until next week. So unfortunately, it'll all just go out all at once.
Fine.
And
it's fine.
Yeah, we'll get those out.
Awesome. All right, I'm out. See ya. Thanks.
Peace.
See you, Kyle.
All right, so last of our recommended replays that we have here is by you, dstaley, your last game on round 8. So should we watch it from their perspective?
Yeah, either of 6 is good. Like, I think this is an interesting one because they run a really interesting tweak on the save from the fire Ents thing, and their shadow is also this eye orc threat, overwhelm, burden thing, and it gets them to some interesting scenarios. I actually thought
that shadow.
I actually thought they misclicked on this. I'm like, you're starting with 2 Forest Guardians.
Yeah, that does look like a misclick. Maybe
But
they
like
did.
as you can see from the forearmed in their hands, you can have an idea where their fellowship side is going.
I missed it, but
Well, they started with a forearmed, so they didn't start with Gandalf. You can kind of guess it's going to be Manager of Wizards, Glorfindel eventually.
gotcha. Gotta have the right Gandalf then.
Yeah,
Right, you can't start with Leader of Men.
yeah. And I would have died here if I didn't draw Bane of Eight Legs. Or whichever sting I drew. I almost had a sight 2 loss.
I can't read that sting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite the swarm at sight too.
Holy cow! Yeah, that's. Oh, and so you're able to make Gollum less strength, right?
Yeah.
Just enough to squeak
Oh,
under there.
yeah.
Yep. But yeah, this whole like Sauron orc threat thing, and that one kind of like square-headed Sauron orc that is like overwhelm, add 3 threats. That's an interesting thing that's kind of shown up in the meta these days, I think.
So I'm just watching how many cards he's discarding here, but his deck's not that large.
No.
Yeah, I feel like he's hunting for a Wizards Never Late because he needs
Yeah.
Gandalf.
Well, he had one originally. Did he mulligan and I missed it?
No, he had one. I think he used it on Ent Horde here.
Yeah, which was an interesting choice as well, like getting Ent Horde over Gandalf early.
Especially when Saved by the Fire was already in his hand.
Yeah.
Oh, if he's not running more Ents, he needs to play Ent Horde before he Saves by the Fire.
Oh.
If he's
yeah,
starting double Forest Guardians and Ent Horde is his tank, but he's going Gandalf and Telepathy, then he can't.
Yeah.
He can't kill one of them Saved by the Fire yet.
He's going Gandalf plus Glorfindel Telepathy because he's got a few forearms in there, and like I haven't realized because I haven't seen his hand yet that he's running also Telepathy.
Right.
And so, like, that is an interesting, like, surprise, but at the same time, we're coming up here on.
Yeah, he's quite a way into
Region
this.
2, and he's got nothing set up.
Well, and he just pitched 2 four-armed.
And he played one of the Saurons, which is wild. Like, if you're using forearmed and Glorfindel, I mean, he probably pitched the forearms because he realized I was using Nazgul and Glorfindel would do the trick when he eventually gets it.
And that's fair, but Gandalf and Glorfindel alone feels risky to me.
Yeah.
Like if you're facing Nazgul, great, you just go and trounce the Witch King. But facing anything else and without forearmed or some other tech around that.
Yeah. So there's his Manager of Wizards.
Yeah. Grab Treebeard while he can.
Yeah. Now you can burn the Forest Guardian.
Two enraged and out of the high airs.
Can you click enraged? I can never remember what the extra text on that is.
It's just.
It's a big bonus, and then does it go away?
Yeah, discard this condition
Yeah,
at the
it
end
goes
of the
away,
turn,
okay.
so it's for running.
Yep. Well, there's Radagast for running.
Yeah, so what I didn't expect when I played my Shadow side was the out of high airs. I think I played for being able to beat Treebeard and or Ent Horde with the Crown, but didn't expect out of high airs.
Right. Because you're going to play big, he's going to discard the 3 important things and keep moving.
Yeah, so Pale Crown negates Enraged.
Oh, yeah, I hadn't even thought about that, but yeah, it would. Oh, but it keeps going.
Yeah, he
Risking
doesn't
a-
discard you. Oh,
He
no.
does out of here.
Oh, I gotcha.
Oof, 30 Twilight, though.
Yeah.
I
can't
know
do-
you didn't play a ton of cards the previous turn, so like maybe he's just gambling it's good, but
I mean, he made a good gamble. Like, there's not much I can do. I had discarded, I think, like a Witch King on my own end, figuring like, all right, I'm good if he goes again, because I wasn't
Yeah.
counting on out of Chimeras.
yeah, hitting those gambles or having a way of looking at your opponent's hand is potentially so big for some of these. I think it's often overlooked when we talk about kind of like when calls are made, but like Glamdring won me a game during Fellowship Lock. I saw my opponent's hand, saw that they were not going to stop me, even if they played everything they had and then drew an equivalent. Like, I wouldn't have double jumped if I hadn't had the foreknowledge, and I think that's something that we don't. I'm surprised at how often we don't see those cards played.
Yeah.
Anytime I see a Gandalf that gets either a Shadowfax or one of the newer Glamdrings, I'm shocked.
I almost wonder how much
Tip
of
to
it is like.
anyone watching: don't kill Enquaya with Terrible and Evil. Exert him enough to be not quite dead, so you can double move and he won't be played again.
Yep. No, that's smart.
Yeah, this exact situation is why we did the further errata to the other Saruman, the Keeper of Isengard, so that you wouldn't end up in the situation of it being a useless body.
Yeah, so that other errata to Keeper of Isengard, I totally missed, and I very nearly lost a game this tournament because he discarded himself to prevent a wound that I knew he had the exert to make Fierce errata, and I just think I'd never read further. So when he got discarded and the guy I was shooting down didn't die, it very nearly cost me a game. I think I did eventually lose that game, but not at that site. I had one more exertion to give.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure why he discarded cards there to not wound Radagast.
He might just be cycling. He doesn't have Glorfindel yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's tearing through his deck here.
Yeah. Can you see, Ketura, I assume you've got the deck list. Is he running 4x Glorfindel?
I don't have it handy. I'd have to go.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I wasn't sure what tricks you had on this view for being an admin.
No, and that's another thing I'd like to address. I would like there to be more cheaty views that we can look at and really.
I don't know if it would be considered kind of. I don't even know the right word. Uncouth, but I'd love to see a view as a player to click on my draw deck, and not in order, obviously, but just see the remaining cards. Especially when I'm testing a deck that like I've kind of thrown together. The frequency where it's like I have to go in one screen to figure out how many of something I'm running, and then look at my discard pile to see how many I've used.
You should
to get
be
a feel
able to.
for like.
So at the end of the stream, once it ends, you should see a link that pops up right here, and you can click on it, and it'll show you what's left.
Right, I mean we didn't play. Like when thinking about do I discard this or am I running another one? I've just modified this deck and I can't remember how.
Just to see your list, then. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, I definitely don't want it in order. That would be cheating.
Right. No. Okay. Yeah.
But so, kind of a shorthand for having my deck list off to the side and looking at my discard pile.
And one of the things I'd like to do too is insert the deck notes section and have a way for you to look at it, so you can leave notes for yourself, like, hey, you need to bid this much, you need to try and do XYZ combo, little things like that.
Make sure you start these companions.
Yeah.
This might just be my unfamiliarity with the format, but the Twilight pool seems a lot larger than other formats I've seen.
Yeah,
PC, well, movie in general, rather, especially ends, and both of these players are playing ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The decks are high Twilight decks.
I'm flooding like mad. It's fair.
And honestly, I prefer that. Like, I like having situations where everybody gets to just play everything. It's the anti-choke. I really despise choke concepts of.
Well,
Yeah,
and
you
often
can't
it's
play your
just
cards.
if your opponent is used to playing against some choke stuff, like you can throw 30 Twilight down, and if I only have 15 points to play with, like you're kind of just walking through me.
Yeah.
It's
Also interesting there is like when I remember playing this game in real time, I was terrified he was going to burn Treebeard or Entord to make me not be able to reduce the move limit.
Hmm.
Because if he had 5 companions, he was going to walk all over me because Glorfindel can kick their ass all day with, just nuking my Nazgul.
Mm-hmm.
And if he
Right.
had Save from the Fire, it's an easy triple move to Site 9.
Yep. Yeah, he didn't have the option here because you didn't have the Witch King out, but he could have sacked Radagast along the way as well because he's not triple moving.
I will admit I'm quite proud of the way that I maneuvered my way through his nonsense or his swarmish, overwhelming stuff from Site 8 to 9, the double move here to win.
Did he draw this all in one reconcile?
Yeah.
I mean, with only 9 cards, well, though you've only got 5 left.
He had like 18 cards left, and
he's been discarding a lot of cards, though. I wonder if he's been paying good attention to which side they're on.
Specifically getting rid of fellowship cards. That's a possibility.
Yeah, if you specifically are discarding 2 or 3 cards a turn, and you always discard 2 or 3 fellowship cards, you will have a loaded shadow at the end of the game for your swarms.
Yeah, so I killed him on purpose to get rid of the threats and change the initiative because there's not a threat to spot for initiative.
Until now.
I think I did the same thing at Site 9 where I intentionally killed someone to change the threats to reset initiative. And Gandalf has full vitality, so I can double cancel against Sauron to limit the overwhelms. Yeah, so that's no more threats. Skirmish canceled. And Tail of the Great Ring.
That's one that, man, that card annoys me sometimes. I've had Moria decks where I specifically include skirmish events, not because I need them, but because I like to dunk on that card.
Yeah, it's fair. I lost a game to someone who was running a Dunlin deck, and they held on to the last Burn Every Village just to dunk on my Tail of the Great Ring.
It's definitely an interesting dynamic. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where we couldn't really expand on it without making it more vulnerable. Because if there were lots of effects that said unless an event was played, then people would just start including events, and it would make them trash. Okay, well, let's go ahead and spin the wheel for this last DGMA shirt, and then I think that'll be it for the prizes. Let's see, where's my requester? Okay, so this will be for, like I said, one of those DGMA, well, it's actually more of a D-Agent, D-Player t-shirts. So this will go out to whoever this goes on. Last spin. Wait a minute. You already went
saw
something.
that one before.
What luck? Yeah, well, sorry, you don't get a second thing. I'm respinning that. I meant to take your name out of the list. I completely failed to do so. So just consider
Don't
yourself
want to save on shipping.
And it's Ring Bearer. Alright, so you will get the t-shirts. We'll get those shipped out along with the World Championship rewards. So it'll be a little bit, but those will go along with it. Awesome. Well, does anybody else have any specific replays that they'd like to look at, or do we just want to click on random stuff, or what do we think?
I had two I'd love to share, but they're both against somebody who made it to the top 8.
And Koss, you just made it in. You had an unfortunate situation this morning, or yesterday, I mean. That whole situation was kind of nuts.
Yeah, I absolutely did not do that on purpose, and I just want everybody to know that, since Marcin designed Gemp well over 15 years ago, I was one of the first beta testers for it and worked with him. I have absolutely no desire to take advantage of anybody or any situation. That's not on my agenda at all.
Yeah, no, and I totally, I don't even necessarily didn't suspect you, but yeah, it was I could definitely see why people were complaining about it. So for people that didn't hear about this, Koss is one of the admins on Gemp, and as such has the ability to view private games even when they're marked as private, and hadn't realized that he was spectating some people that were doing some warm-ups with their World Championship decks, and so there's a bit of a stink thrown up about it, and so Koss took the high ground and withdrew from the group stage just to hold off any claims of impropriety. So kudos to you for doing that, definitely. But yeah, that was kind of part of the situation. In the future, if we have anybody that from the PC or that's on the administrator list that joins an event, we'll make sure to temporarily remove their ability to view private games like that, so that there's no problem. If we had anticipated that problem, we could have solved it. But
Reading it after the fact, because I'd missed it until it was done, but it read like such bad luck for you, Kaz.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were on your phone, you clicked into a game, you don't
Yeah,
get blocked
I'm
from those
laying
ones.
in bed, and I was like, "Hey, let's watch some PC games. Oh, here's a PC game. Let's just watch it."
Yeah, and that's all I ever think myself. Like I'm obviously not competing, but like I'm like, oh hey, cool, PC game. And there's no that was just bad luck all around.
There was absolutely no malice involved there, and I wish the best to Breezy and his opponent, and
Yeah.
I told him that. So
Well, I think Breezy made the top 8, so
yeah, so
yeah, good for him.
good job on your good luck. It worked. Yeah.
Oz, you sound like you have a Darth Vader mask on. Do you have a Darth Vader mask on?
No, I have a Cupid sweatshirt on.
Ah.
That'll do.
just a James Earl Jones voice.
Okay.
So let's just pick one of these random games here, and let's take a look and see, roll the dice and see what we get. Something from one of the PC movie. So this is Jonik and Olga. Oh, actually, let's not embarrass them.
Oh,
Sorry, what was that?
I'm just surprised to see a Boromir ring bearer. It's not the classic Gandalf start.
Let's reveal some of these names here. I felt kind of bad for Olga. They did not have a good run.
They did seem to get a hard turn.
Yeah. Let's do this one. Well, we already saw Ringbearer, but we saw him in Fellowship, right? So let's see what they were up to for the.
Are we intentionally avoiding the top 8?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
all the top 8 have already been stripped out of this list. That's part of the whole not revealing their decks thing. I'm really kind of not pleased with that whole situation. I prefer a competition where people have to think on their feet and have to deal with the fact that their deck lists were revealed and everybody's deck lists were revealed, and now you have to try to figure out what you're going to do. But there were some people where I guess that wasn't particularly clear up front.
I thought the consensus was that you would reveal the decks of the top 8, which is why everyone had to have 2 decks for each format.
No, so they are allowed to change if they wish, but they're not required to. And so
You are publishing the top 8 decks.
Yeah, so the top 8 decks are all like canned, like you can't view them at the moment. So the
But we'll do that differently next year, right?
yeah. So next year I'm not doing this ring roll. Next
Yeah.
year it's going to be very plain up front, and actually that's one of the reasons why I was also pushing to maybe have next year just be PC movie, so that if we're doing just one format, then it's more fair for us to say, hey, just go prepare multiple decks, and then so that way if you really feel like your particular deck had a strategy that just gets torpedoed if everyone knows what it is, you can have a backup if you feel like you need to jump to it. But
You have to provide both lists up front, or would you just provide one and then swap out later?
you only have to provide the list right before you enter. So yeah, you would provide your first list for group stage, and then on the last championship tournament, then you could choose whether or not you're going to go with the same deck or with a completely different one if you so desire. So if you feel like you have a solid deck that can survive both situations, then go for it. But you do have that option to swap out if you feel like it.
I think if we're go ahead.
There's another person who's British on this stream, and I'd like to know who he is.
Oh,
Oh, that's me. Hello.
Hi, who are you?
I'm Solarus 21 on Gemp and Solarus the Apostate Elder thing on the Discord.
Do you live in the UK?
I do, Yorkshire.
Oh, nice. Okay, fine. We live in London. Cool. Sorry.
So, Ketura, when you're looking at designing a tournament for an online venture to Mirror Worlds, I attended quite a few of the early Worlds in the early 2000s, and the importance of having multiple decks prepared for the meta and being able to switch your decks after day one if you made the cut to day two was really, really important. I sat with people like Dominic Geralt and Patrick Malbuth and Matthew Brochu, Michael Dalton, and we talked about meta changes between the night of the end of stage one and into the day of stage two, and how important it was to be able to have that flexibility of mind to change a deck strategy or an entire archetype between those 2 days. And I think that adds a lot to the mirroring of those early Worlds events. So I of course, am in favor of complete transparency. Once a tournament is entered into, deck lists are posted, everybody knows what they're going to face.
Yeah, and that's definitely my mindset as well. It was brought to my attention that because of the fact that we have the split format, it does kind of get combinatorially complex when you have two different formats that you're building for. So you actually need 4 decks minimum if you're going to be doing any mind games. And so when that was brought to my attention, I was like, okay, I can see why that would be a little bit out of hand. So next time, let's try to aim for having that transparency and making it so. Yeah, so first of all, yeah, there's no possibility of cheating. There's no possibility of I've got information that someone else doesn't have because I happen to play that guy and I know what his deck is, kind of thing.
Yep.
But at the same time, like you because it's small enough, you've only got the 2 decks that you have to make for the same format, and then that lets us have those cool meta moments of somebody reading all these lists and saying, well, what do I think is actually going to work, and what is actually going to be something that I have to play against, and what is going to be a problem, and what gambles am I going to take, and what defenses am I going to leave out. And I think that crucible in that day or that week where you're going over that information, that is really what separates the wheat from the chaff and who is really able to think on their feet. And so I think that unfortunately we kind of erode that a little bit by not having the decks announced. But at the same time, I understand, we didn't make that perfectly clear beforehand. So
if your opponent's deck only has 1 Ankea in it, you see situations like day 2 where you bid 8 to go first.
Yeah.
Because he only has 1 Ankea in his deck, and it's the only punishment for burdens in his entire deck. Off we go.
Yeah.
So given the ability to change decks, though, and kind of I want to voice the dissent on the too many formats means too many decks. Because I think not changing or only changing by a card swap or two is just as much of the mind game
Oh, sure.
kind of game as needing two fully distinct decks.
So like to be very clear, what I mean by when I say that you need two decks is that's only if you are preparing in such a way that you're going to be flexible, because it might turn out that, oh hey, my deck that I picked was like inadequate. Like I only barely clawed my way into the top 8, and these guys are going to eat me alive if I stick with this. So having the flexibility to fall back on another one that you've designed that is equally powerful, but not as like it just uses a different paradigm. You want to have that flexibility, so you don't have to make two decks. But yeah, so like you say, it can totally be a mind-bending move on its own to bluff with a deck and then make absolutely no changes, and people were expecting you to make changes, so they made changes, and then they trip over themselves and you've broken their ankles all the way to the top. Like that's perfectly great. I would love that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you can do the small swap too, and kind of the example that I think it was Cause just mentioned with, hey, they only ran 1 on K, and we saw that, so I'm going to bid high. Well, if you just slot in 2 more, anybody who's trying to play that bluff is just going to get wrecked.
And that would be wonderful. Like, yeah, like I would love to have those sorts of mind games and being able to trace them and point it out and say, hey, look, like this guy just totally walked all over him because he made an assumption that was not correct.
Like, the format doesn't really support like a sideboard sort of affair like Magic used to do for their tournaments 20 odd years ago.
Yeah, that's something I've wondered about too.
Sideboards only really make sense if you're playing 2 out of 3, though,
and
or if you have access to your opponent's deck list ahead of time,
which is actually kind of an option for us. Like for instance, our top 2 are going to be playing best 2 out of 3, so it's. But you're right, yeah. For Magic, because they play so many matches, I think that it makes more sense for them to have a sideboard than for us.
Yeah, on one hand, I'd love to play 2 out of 3, because you avoid those. I lost. What is their name? Poick or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They made it to the top 8, but I lost at Site 5 because I didn't draw a single companion. Like, my deck list, I think, is public now. I'm running 5, other than my starting. But I had, I think, 32 cards left at the end of the game, and 5 of them were companions. 2 out of 3 would have been awesome. But on the other hand, you get the others. I won 1 game at Site 2 because I happened to draw 2, whatever the Gandalf hate card is called. I'm forgetting the name of right now. So it's... But I definitely did not want to play 32 games yesterday.
Yeah, and that's
24 games or whatever it would have been.
I was looking at
Terrible and Evil is the game.
Terrible and Evil.
No.
Too great and terrible.
Too great and terrible.
Thanks.
Yeah. I had 4 of those in my movie block deck that was Ninja Golem Nazgul for exactly that reason, for the meta.
Yep, I was running just the 2, but I saw an opponent started Gandalf, the Grey Pilgrim, the one who draws cards, and I had a not great opening hand, but I had 2 of them, so I was not mulliganing it. It was enough, and I won at Site 2 because of it. He didn't play another companion and gave me the Twilight to
knock out Gandalf.
I assume I would have overwhelmed Frodo. He actually conceded before the assignment phase.
Well, that could just kill you right away.
Was so surprised, but I assume I would have overwhelmed. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Anyway, we haven't really been commenting on this particular game. That's just kind of slowly been going out underneath us. So we have Knights here on the bottom by Ringbearer, and FNL Groove up the top is playing more of a your standard Ent deck. We've got Ringbearer's also playing Dunland.
Yeah, the heavy conditions and possessions in the support area from both factions here often makes it really hard to kind of keep up with what you're dealing with.
Yeah, this is one thing that I really want to improve about Gemp. I don't like that it's a mixed, shuffled support area. I would actually like to kind of have a button that would switch back and forth, and it would like automatically swap when the turns changed. You could still inspect it and say, okay, well, while I'm waiting, I'm going to flip it over and look at his Gondor while he's Shadow. But like, this is way too tiny. In general, this does not make good use of space. All this wasted wasted space everywhere that's not being used to display cards is.
I'd be thrilled even with a basic sort. Shadow, then Free Peoples, and then by card name. Put all the hides together.
Yeah,
I know you can move them, but sometimes, especially when the clock's running, it can feel a little like that's not time well used.
Yeah. Speaking of time, all you guys who played in the tournament, what did y'all think about the time limits in general? I know that that's something that's not normally a concern in most of the games you play on Gemp.
I loved it. I won one game because my opponent ran out of time. I lost one game because in being worried about time, I didn't double check that I had clicked Terrible and Evil to 3 and not to 2. But I felt like it made you not rush necessarily, because it was sufficient if you knew your deck well, but it made you not sit and spend 5 minutes contemplating all the possibilities. You had to kind of, in the moment, what's best? I only have 45 seconds to make this whole assignment call.
You had to have a plan, and you had to have a gut that you trusted.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think when you're talking about good players versus bad players, like somebody who just knows what they're doing, knows what the cards do, I tend to think of as a better player. Kind of the example of me not knowing knights and just kind of accepting that I wasn't going to beat them. I think it's a good example. Somebody who is a better movie player is just going to know what all those cards do and know how to deal with them.
Yeah.
And I just didn't, so I ran on the other end. But I thought the time was really good for that. It also meant that I wasn't massively slowing down my opponent's day by me going, hold on, let me read all of your fortifications every turn so I can figure out what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, big fan. 10 out of 10. Won me a game, cost me a game. Thought it was a good thing overall. I know I'm not the only one who played, though.
Yeah, no one else is free to speak up if you got opinions on that, but otherwise.
Well, the reason I don't play the other formats particularly is because I just don't know the card base, so I would be taking as long as possible to read every card every time because I'm just not familiar with them.
Mm-hmm.
Which format is it usually play? Are you Fellowship?
Yeah, Fellowship and Fellowship PC.
Yeah. Certainly can't speak for everybody, but when not playing in the tournament where we're doing 8 games back to back, I don't mind at all if you take your time, if you ever want to play some movie. That said, I don't play a lot of movie either, so I will also be pausing to read your cards.
No, I've played a little bit of Towers. I did one of the galas. I think I've watched a couple of movie games, but because it's such a large card pool, I've never taken the time to sit down and work out what I want to do. Although Alan does keep saying, "Give me a deck thing. I'll convert it to King Standard for you. We'll play some games. It'll be amazing." But I have yet to take him up on that.
Yeah, it's definitely a big jump. One of the things that we need to work on in the PC is the pipeline of where you go, because you start with Fellowship block, and that's 500 cards or so, of which maybe 100 actually matter. And then, so that's like very bite-sized comparatively. And then from there, you could move on to Towers, and a lot of people are encouraged to do that just to learn it. But Towers is so unpopular that it's difficult to find games for it. And so your next best jump is up to Movie. And at that point, you've now jumped to a pool of about 1,600 cards, which is a massive jump. And unlike there only being 100 that matter, there's now about 500 that matter. And so you've increased the dimensions of what you're trying to search through in every direction, and it's just impossible to make a small, tiny jump. So one of the things that we need to figure out is a good way to have like a university series or something of regular leagues or regular events or something that move you up gently and makes it a lot more palatable and easy to digest for new players. But
that would be really cool.
Yeah. One of the things too I'm also looking into is I want to have a guided tutorial series where it just kind of gives you a super cut down like 10 card deck, and then has you play through the interactions of specific cards and teaches you what the cards mean and all that stuff. Just something that would take like 20 minutes to knock out a few lessons, and then boom, now you know how to you know the basics of how to play. And that's like one of the number one questions we get is how do you do that? How do you start? But and that could also, I think, lead to some cool stuff, because if I build the tools correctly, then people will be able to also do like puzzles. They'll be able to say, hey, here's an interesting situation, how do you get out of it? And have people try to make challenges for more
Oh, that would be really
experienced
cool.
players.
Yeah, how do you survive this without losing 2 companions?
Yeah, I know that back in the
I
day on the
don't know how
forums,
many of you guys played during the 2001 to 2002 period, but in that the height right before Realms of the Elf Lord was released, there were puzzles released maybe on a weekly basis on the DGMA website that were just that, where you had to devise an order of operations and then one other card that would be in your hand that could survive 4-0, for example, on Site 9. And there was some really, really, really cool puzzles that Decipher Games put out there for the interwebs in the early stages of their product.
Oh, cool. I was playing back then, but I don't remember that. That sounds very cool.
I think
Similar.
I
I was playing back then, but yeah, no knowledge of that.
It's got to be in the Decipher way back somewhere. So we should probably start there, if nothing else, and pull them out.
Yeah,
and digitize them.
I bet those are still fun today.
Yeah, and then give people the tools to come up with more of their own. I know that on the forums there have been various topics of like, okay, how big can we make Pippin, kind of thing, like just as a challenge. What's the largest strength you can get Pippin to on Site 2, given any situation you want. And so those sorts of things could be interesting too.
That would be very cool.
Well, I think I'm running out of steam, folks. And we kind of let this replay play out on the screen and didn't say a darn thing about it.
No actual commentary.
So maybe we should just call it quits here. So thank you to everybody who joined in. Thank you to everybody who joined me to commentate. I'd really encourage all of you to give it a shot on your own. I mean, if you feel like you want to pair up, or just grab some people and occasionally hop on Twitch or something. Like, we definitely need more content like this. I'll make sure that this is uploaded to YouTube so we can share it around. And then next week, this Saturday, is the final confrontation for our World Championship. That is when we will have the top 8 players who competed in the group stage. These ones highlighted in green here. They will all be going head-to-head in a double elimination tournament, and we will be streaming those approximately live. Like, we'll have like a 15-minute delay or something just to prevent screen sniping. But other than that, you'll be able to see it happen as it happens, and we'll bring the crew together again, and we'll maybe even split up into a few different streams if there's a lot of us, and because there will be games happening simultaneously. So thank you all for joining.
Ketura, are you putting handguards up?
Do what?
Are you putting handguards up for the player's hand? So you can see the game play out, but you can't see what's actually in the player's hand.
So because they will be live, they'll be spectating just like you do in the game hall. So there won't be any so just like if I hop in any random game here, there's no hands that get displayed that way. So all we will see is what's played on the table and into the support areas.
And we should plan to join for that kind of right at the start of the event itself.
Yep.
I wasn't sure how much of a delay we were.
Yeah. So it'll be like I said, just like a 15-minute delay, but that's going to be handled by software. So like we will start live, and so that'll be right around 1700 UTC,
cool.
Which is noon Central Time.
Well, it's already on my calendar because I was hoping to be in it.
Hey, you
So
might.
I
I
will-
mean, you're one of the backups here. So if one of these green guys drops out for whatever reason, then you'd be the one moved up. So.
Well, I'm hoping nobody has to drop. As much as I'd love to play, that it's just no fun if you have to.
That is true.
Have to back out of something. So
that is true.
I will be here ready to commentate with bells on.
Awesome. Well, I'll see you all around. And any of you guys here, you're of course welcome to show up then as well. And we'll we'll play it by ear and see what we can do. All right, I'll
Sounds
end the
good.
stream now.
Awesome. Thanks so much for doing these, Ketura.